With war, world, and Atlas Dog, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas Dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas Dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas Dog, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.
All right. How's it going, everybody? No Atlas for the first hour tonight, so it is just me riding solo. Oh, I see Atlas there in the chat. Said, I'll be on air shortly. I'm with my daughter until my wife can take over. See everybody soon. Yeah, we'll see you soon there, brother. In the meantime, we're going to get to talking about a couple things. First off, we have the Steven Crowder has lended his voice to criticize AIPAC. Something that, I don't know if he normally does that or not. I gotta admit, I don't watch him like every day or anything like that, but I feel like maybe he wouldn't have said that had he still been trying to make it on YouTube. But at the same time, now that he's over on Rumble full time exclusively, maybe he's feeling a little bit more free to come out. I don't know. We'll play his take on that. We're also going to get into the next layer of the Daily Mail ongoings, which is that their president has now resigned. That's not Jeremy Boring. He was the CEO. We're talking about a different guy. So it's not looking good for the Daily Wire right now. And we have some theories. The Quartering puts a theory out there that I think is worth entertaining. So we'll kind of dig into that stuff as well. Let's see. And we're gonna focus on those two, and then of course, we're going to talk about the full group chat has been released between Trump's cabinet, Pete Hegseth, Mike Waltz, everybody else that was in there. I think Tulsi Gabbard, amongst a few other people. And so we'll dig into that a little bit, and I think we'll start with this Daily Wire thing. It's there's not a whole lot to it, so it'll be just a quick little segment. But we have basically this guy named John Lewis, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. He served as the president and chief operating officer, the COO of the Daily Wire. Let's see here. Lewis joined the company after a varied career that included such roles as an intelligence analyst in the U.S. Marine Corps. So thank you for your service on that one. But he also worked in a digital marketing space and fundraising at the Daily Wire. He rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the COO in 2020, and later taking the office of president, the title of president, I guess I should say. He didn't take the office of president, right? But let's see here. Working closely with Jeremy Boring, who was the CEO until recently, stepping down to focus on, his creative projects, which was the, I don't even remember what it's called now. Last show, I accused this whole thing of maybe being a publicity stunt to introduce people to the new movie project, the passion project that the Daily Wire and Jeremy Boring are trying to get made. That's $50 million over budget, but now I can't even remember the name of it. Hey, what's up, Steve? most of the chat should be on the jar openers. There's not a whole lot going on right now. Appreciate everybody for being here. I want to let you guys know I am broadcasting over on Rumble as well. And if you're on my channel, America First TV, I'm trying to move the show. Okay, I knew Dragon was in there. Thank you, Atlas. I knew Dragon had something to do with it. The Pendragon cycle. Yeah. So anyways, it was just, as I was saying, I'm trying to get everybody to move from America First TV over to the Jar Openers podcast if you enjoy the live show. That way I can separate my daily videos from the live show, one being more news-based and the other one being more kind of drama-based, and it confuses the algorithm a little bit. So if you don't mind, if you're watching on America First TV, maybe go click the link down in the description and make sure you're subscribed to the Jar Openers podcast channel as well. Let's see here. Continuing, let's see here. I'll tell you a little bit more about old John Lewis here. Recent developments indicate that John Lewis resigned from his position from president of the Daily Wire around March 25th. That was yesterday. As posts on X and some online discussions suggest, his departure came amid alleged financial struggles at the company. And that's the theory that we've been chasing as well, that they gave away too many free memberships. They propped themselves up falsely. They spread themselves too thin. We know they canceled credit cards for their, or I think they canceled or they blocked or shut off spending on their credit cards that they assigned to their employees, that type of thing. And then everything else that we've already talked about with being over budget and losing Brett Cooper, losing Candace Owens recently enough, and just not replacing their talent with anyone as notable as the people that are leaving, basically. And then the whole Brett Cooper saga where she left. She thought that her best friend and assistant was going to come with her. Jeremy Boring apparently offered her a good enough contract where then I think her name is Reagan chose to stay. And that caused a whole rift between Brett Cooper and Reagan. And then, so, you know, apparently they're not trying to replace their talent. Maybe they don't have the money for it. I don't really know what's going on there, but let's see. Let's continue. Let me find where I left off. Yeah, this followed closely on the heels of Jeremy Boring's exit as CEO. Sources, including Cinnamon on X, claim that Lewis's resignation was inevitable due to internal backlash over financial mismanagement, though no official statement from the Daily Wire or Lewis himself has been widely publicized. To confirm the exact reasons as of now, it has been publicized to confirm the exact reasons as of now. I should learn how to read punctuation, right? Before his resignation, Lewis was seen as a key figure in the company's operations, overseeing the growth into a multimedia platform that includes podcasts, news, and entertainment, like the kids streaming service Bent Key. There's no evidence. Okay, so yeah, that's what we got going on. But then we have this post here from the Quartering. Let me share my screen here. I was going to do it before the show, but every time I set it up before the show starts, I inevitably have to go back in and re-add it anyways because the audio is never included. But we'll go here and have a look. This one's from the Quartering. The Daily Wire is collapsing. Both the president and CEO are both out in the last 7 days. This seems to coincide with USAID funding collapsing. And an interesting theory. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this has anything to do with USAID collapsing? Was USAID, we know they were funding operations like Politico and the BBC, amongst other news sources, I guess you call them. Fake news, in my opinion. But maybe Daily Wire was on the list too, and we just haven't heard about that part yet, or maybe it was minimal. I don't know. It's an interesting theory. I really don't think it has anything to do with USAID, but it's curious, right? Let's see here. What else we got? Had this one here from James Lee, or this one from James Lee exclusive. One's a top lieutenant and recently ousted CEO. To the recently ousted CEO. Okay, so yeah, it's just basically a repeat of what I already read there. So yeah, Daily Wire is not looking good right now. They appear to be in shambles as far as the the future looks. Haven't heard any rumblings of new people being added to the show other than the whole kind of hoax rumors that were going around about Tim Pool in the first of the year. And he had this whole big announcement, and apparently that announcement was they had a new flavor of coffee or something like that. I can't remember what it was. They're announcing they're opening stores, or I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't what everybody thought, and it certainly wasn't that Tim Pool was joining the Daily Wire. There was some rumors about Tim Pool being offered shares to bring his show over there, shares in the Daily Wire, but yeah, I think Tim either rejected that, or maybe that was just a rumor in itself as well. But still, glad he didn't go over there, especially now that they're going through this. It's pretty crazy thing. And then let's see here. What's we got going on in chat? What's up, Steve? What's up, Atlas? What's up, Alt Companion? What's up, Donnie? TNT, JB, how you guys doing? Yeah. Okay. Atlas says, I think the courtroom was being sarcastic, but it's funny to dump on the Daily Wire regardless. I mean, it's an interesting theory. What's up, Elmo? Yeah, it's an interesting theory. He probably was joking or being sarcastic. I should have recognized that, but still pointing out that within the last 7 days, president and CEO are both out. So also no announcement of who will be taking over. So, I mean, it's just, I guess they're operating on a skeleton crew over there. I wouldn't be surprised to see another big name like Matt Walsh or potentially Michael Knowles look to go solo as well. But that's just speculation. But I mean, at this rate, I think it'd be a smart decision on their part to start looking out for themselves rather than depending on the Daily Wire and what they have going. And that's gonna suck. I mean, like the Daily Wire or not, which I'm not a huge fan of, but those guys are trying to make moves, and they have fought well in the culture battle and stuff like that. So I'd hate to see them go away. Although if they're not making any money, then I mean, it's just inevitable, right? What's up, Tix Bomber? House. Let's see here. House mentions they have 3,780,000 viewers in the 18 to 35 demographic, and the numbers have been dropping according to a similar web. Okay, interesting. So yeah, I mean, I can tell you from my personal experience, I used to be subscribed to the Daily Wire, and they just weren't providing enough content, and it's like, no, it's not worth it, $10-15 a month or whatever it was. So I had to cancel. And they're not putting out, Gina Carano hiring her for that Western movie was a good move. And I think that had a lot of people signed up and just kind of waiting and just paying for their membership as they kind of waited and supported their side of the culture battle. But inevitably, the movies just aren't coming out fast enough. I don't know how Bentkey's actually doing. I'm not into watching kids stuff, so I don't have time for it. But it's still interesting place that the Daily Wire is. If you'd have told me just over 2 months after Trump being inaugurated that the Daily Wire would be looking at losing their president and CEO and on the brink of potentially collapsing, I would have said, you're kidding, right? I think most people probably would agree with that as well. Just like Trump wins and then it falls apart. It's interesting. Atlas says that Bertram, I think that was their first show that they were working on over there for Bentkey, and he says that got flamed so bad too. So I didn't even know. I didn't watch it. But yeah, I believe they I don't know. It's like a political channel. Most people aren't trying to send their kids into the political space or affiliation, and I don't know if Bertram was politically motivated. I doubt it was, but it just doesn't really mix. So maybe they should have created a Bentkey and never announced that they were associated with it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Also weird that they named it after Jeremy Boring's little passion club, whatever you want to call it, that they had going on over there in his past. Not that they had going on over there, but a club he was a part of in his past. Dude's really really full of himself. He almost says $10 for that channel, $10 for some other. It can get expensive. Yeah, that's true too. I will say, they do provide more for that $10 than some of the other people that are asking for a monthly subscription. You know how this is, it's kind of trending or whatever. They had all their different people and all their exclusive kind of shows and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not like they weren't trying. Maybe they just spent too much. Maybe they out leveraged themselves with the free memberships and just couldn't get the advertising, the marketing numbers right. I don't know. Wish them the best. Maybe they'll come up with some new places, some new faces. I mean, but that's all yet to be seen. And it's going to start with replacing their CEO and now president, and it's going to take a lot of work. But let's see here. Let's move on to Steven Crowder. Let's see. Let me move this one over. We're gonna watch a 4-minute clip from Steven Crowder. Let me close some of these down. All right. Yeah, and it's crazy too. Like, it's a big opportunity right now for a void to be filled with Dan Bongino joining the FBI and losing his show. I know that there's a girl that has taken it over, and she's been getting good views still per day. So looks like the fans haven't really gone anywhere, but you'd think that there's a bit of an opportunity for folks like the Daily Wire who are focused on streaming and things to get their view count up. But it doesn't appear to be working as everybody's not being fired, but leaving. Atlas mentions that they did major exclusive sweeps that didn't work. Both of Matt's movies and Lady Ballers. Yeah, they did do a couple. I mean, What is a Woman is a great, tool almost. It was a good theory. And then Am I Racist, the other one by Matt Walsh. I haven't watched the second one. I did watch What is a Woman, and I enjoyed it. But I haven't seen the second one. I think you can only watch it if you're a member of Daily Wire. Like I said, I'm not a member of Daily Wire, so it is what it is. Avita, I think a guy Vance took over Dan's show. I was looking at it today. I saw Chris Pavlovsky, the Rumble CEO, posted on X the lineup. The top 3 streaming shows today were, or not the top 3, but the top streaming show for like time segment throughout the day. Well, there was 3 of them in a row. I think it was Crowder, Tim Pool, and then the one that was beforehand, which might have been Vince, or it might have been Avita. I know there's I saw it on Dan Bongino's Rumble channel that there was a girl sitting at the desk today. I didn't watch it for very long, but and I haven't checked out Vince yet, so I don't know. Is he from Dan's show? I admit I didn't watch Dan Bongino that often, to be honest with you. Okay, yeah, I never watched Lady Ballers either. House mentions their largest viewership demo was 55 to 64, followed by 65 plus. Is Lady Ballers appealing to that demographic? I didn't see that one, but I don't think so. Right? It's like a teenage sports movie, I think. Right? Something like that. It's supposed to be kind of funny and kooky. Vince was pulling 100K yesterday. I want to pull it up now. I'm curious. Let's see here. I can look up Chris's page on X real fast. They call it a green wave. Steven Crowder, Vince, and Timcast. Yeah, that's today. So I don't know. I'm curious now if Vince is the one that took over for Dan Bongino or not. But like I said, I thought it was a girl. bet if I here's Vince right here. It's this dude. No, I don't think that's at Dan Bongino's desk. I guess Vince had Trump on today. Is that true? I don't know. Vita show. Let's see. I thought I saw her respond. Oh no, that was Haley. Okay. So anyways, Rumble's doing good. That new lineup that they're doing, the way they do the raids, the show raids, is awesome. Just dump 40, 50, 100,000 viewers into the next show and just keep your audience right there. Can't believe nobody's thought of that yet. I mean, I know they do raids and stuff, but not with the big shows like that. Everybody seemed to be kind of above it or beyond it. So yeah, there's a Vita. The Bongino report, early edition. That looks like Vince and Evita. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm gonna have to pay attention and figure out the deal. Have to spend it a couple days. Have to spend a couple days in a row over on Rumble and figure it all out. Maybe should have gave her a follow while I was there. But yeah, let's check out this. Let's check out this clip here from Steven Crowder. This is post by AF Post, or this is put up here by AF Post. Steven Crowder criticized AIPAC for funding explicitly anti-American causes, arguing that their sole concern, support for Israel, does not reflect American policy ideals. That's something we've been kind of talking about lately. So
now here's the first claim I'm going to address, and this will get me sideways with conservative nonprofits who support Israel no matter what at every single point, including AIPAC, that AIPAC is a very conservative organization.
AIPAC's election war chest, financed by major donors, including several Republican billionaires and key GOP funders, has started imposing expensive consequences for lawmakers who express criticism of the U.S.'s unwavering support for Israel.
Okay, here's the truth. AIPAC donates significantly more to Democrats than Republicans. They do donate a lot to Republicans. Again, their only qualifier is, do you support Israel, period? That is not an American ideal as far as policy. They give more to Democrats. So in 2024, Democrat candidates received from AIPAC, to give you an idea, $19.1 million. I believe this is a total of congressional and Senate candidates. Republicans, $15.7 million. The average contribution on a candidate-by-candidate basis for Democrats, $117,000. For Republicans, $66,000. So almost twice given to individual Democrats.
and I'll add, with the whole, what's it called now? I can't think of it. Act Blue controversy where that was discovered by James O'Keefe, an O'Keefe Media Group, about people donating small portions or having small portions of money donated to Act Blue on their behalf without them knowing. We don't know where that money comes from. So the numbers that Steven Crowder pointed out there could be higher, presumably.
To be clear, let me give you some examples, by the way. And this is, look, I'm a Christian, and I sat in an evangelical church where, it was always support Israel. And by the way, of course, as Christians, we do believe that they have the right to exist to that land. Fine, but I'm separating that here. I didn't realize just how corrosive it was to have such a large organization supporting awful people who seek the destruction of your country. And here's the thing. That has nothing to do with Jews. For example, AIPAC gave $866,000 to Hakeem Jeffries, $519,000 to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Kirsten Gillibrand, $480,000. Nancy Pelosi, only $8,000, but she doesn't need it. She has insider trading to fall back on.
They gave her money in other ways.
Yeah. So this is the issue here. You have people on the evangelical right who believe that Israel's our greatest ally. That certainly is likely the case, can be argued. That doesn't mean that AIPAC is if they're giving to Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hakeem Jeffries, and they brag about how 98% of their candidates are elected. Well, hold on a second. Let me ask you, am I supposed to be on board with AIPAC? Does it make me anti-Semitic if I don't abandon my pro-First Amendment principles, my pro-Second Amendment principles, my pro-life principles? Why would I abandon all those principles just because your only qualifier is supporting Israel? I do support Israel. I don't support those candidates, and I don't support a giant organization giving those candidates money, because you're actively fighting against the United States of America. Their primary goal, AIPAC, is to get pro-Israel candidates elected. That's it. That does seem to me perhaps anti-American. This is from its own website. They spent $70 million in 2024 to support pro-Israel candidates, and 90-something% of the candidates won. They even brag that they helped defeat huge Second Amendment advocate Brandon Herrera in his primary because he was not pro-Israel enough. It's like those people who say, I've been a Republican, but I can't vote for Donald Trump. It's a matter of principle. Okay, so the alternative, you abandon all your principles to vote for Kamala Harris because you don't like Donald Trump? He may not be pro-life enough for you. It's a state, when we're talking about the state issue, Supreme Court. Okay, fine. The choice is a candidate who supports abortion all the way up until including birth, period, and violating your right to self-preservation and transitioning minors. Why do you not have a problem with abandoning all of those principles?
Right.
Why are conservatives expected to abandon all these principles? Because they're afraid of being accused of anti-Semitism if they have a problem with AIPAC supporting Hakeem Jeffries, Wasserman Schultz, Pelosi, Gillibrand. The only qualifier of AIPAC, and this is what I believe people have a problem with, it's a legitimate gripe. The only qualifier is, do you support Israel regardless of any other constitutional stances? And that's the only thing that this group cares about, lobbying American representatives as they advocate for American policy, and they're giving you money.
Right. I gotta say, AIPAC is operating within the laws that are allowed as well. So they're kind of using our system to do what they're doing, right? So maybe there should be some laws written about taking lobbyist money, or maybe society should shun and stop electing these people that are taking big lobbyist money. It's pretty crazy, and I think it's pretty messed up. I mean, they have the right, I don't know if it's a right, but they have the ability, and it's not against the law, to fund these people. And I don't know why this entity exists within the country, within the United States. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because, you remember, like, when Trump won 2016, they went nuts about his Russian collusion, right? To win 2016, they went so far as to say that he was a Soviet Union asset, a remnant from the, what was obliterated in the 80s, I believe, or early 90s, that broke up. House mentioned that Herrera ran against Crenshaw, but I don't think it was Crenshaw against Gonzalez. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it was Crenshaw, but I can't keep the rhinos straight. That's for sure. There's way too many. And, a fix to having so many rhinos would be to cut off their ability to make money outside of their government paycheck. I mean, I think it's fair enough request to ask these people that were elected by individuals to serve the country, operate on their paycheck, and resist outside influence. But if this was, like I was saying, if Russia was funding somebody and there was some, AIPAC that was out of Russia, right? I don't know what it would be called. People would go nuts. If it was any other country, it seems like, to me, people would go insane over it. And, with all the anti-Semitic, speech laws being passed and everything like that, it's almost like we can't say anything about this particular group. I know it's frowned upon by a lot of big tech, big media, and stuff like that. So I'm glad Steven Crowder went there. Atlas mentioned that the black pill in him feels that this is an attempt to get ahead of inevitably noticing the damage control. That could be the case. He also just mentioned to ban dual citizens from government offices. Yeah. And I saw that I think it was Thomas Massie. Maybe it was Rand Paul. No, it was Mike Johnson posted on X about that today. I don't have that saved. He posted about that today, introducing a bill, I think, that has to do with not let's see here. Not banning dual citizens from the government, but making them announce that they're dual citizenship. I could be wrong. I might be actually banning them from having government office. I know Ilhan Omar comes to mind when I hear that. TNT says they should have to announce that they are foreign agents if they take foreign money for any reason. Yeah, and I think aren't they supposed to do that anyways? I think that's the law anyways, is you're supposed to announce. I remember that was kind of a thing that people were talking about with Hunter Biden, and the Democrats were making the argument that he's not in the government, but it's like, well, if he was taking the money and then it was filtering to the big guy, it's essentially the same thing. But I could be off on that one. Yeah, Elmo says, agree, Atlas can't have loyalty to both countries. That's true. 100% true. Hey, what's up, Chris? AIPAC gets special privileges too. They operate under LDA instead of FARA, which gives them domestic nation lobby status versus foreign. Yeah, so there's a lot of, and I get it. Israel is one of our closest, allies. But as an America First individual, as America First TV, of course, I prefer that we take care of Americans first over our foreign interests, right? But I do respect that we have an alliance with Israel versus what's going on in Ukraine, where we don't have an alliance. We have this agreement over the removal of the nuclear weapons that weren't even theirs. The agreement is bullcrap. They were former Soviet Union nukes that they basically took back, that Russia took back. So even if they were allowed to keep them, they would not, they wouldn't have helped them in their current situation, at least in my opinion. But let's see here. HR 2356 introduced by Massie. So it was Massie. I thought it was maybe I just saw Mike Johnson do the announcement on it. But yeah, I appreciate that, House. Hey, what's up, Jamie? Alt Companion mentions dual citizens in America are just trying to funnel money back to their home country. Yeah, so are the illegals. So are the non-citizens of America that are operating in America. They're sending the cash back to their families so they can buy those ranches for cheap in the third world countries or whatever. I don't know if Mexico's a third world country, but I know guys that were doing that. I worked with guys that did that. That's how I know how illegals operate and have jobs in the United States. They told me how they do it. And if you're curious, what they do is they work for a paycheck, just like you and I. They claim 9 dependents on their paycheck, so 0 taxes come out. They get the most that they can with as little taxes taken out. And then, of course, they're working under a fake Social Security number. So when it comes down to them doing their federal income taxes, their yearly, annual income taxes, they don't have to do it. It's on a fake Social Security number, so it just goes away. They get a lot more of their own. They get to keep a lot more of their paycheck than everybody that's working for them or with them. They get to work for less and get more, essentially, keep more, and then they send their money back home until they can either move their family up or until they can retire themselves back in the old country. One guy that I worked for, one of the guys that I used to work with, not for, he was sending money back so that they could buy a ranch and expand the land and stuff like that. So, Companion says, yeah, I worked with those guys on construction sites. Yep. And the penalties for hiring illegals isn't even that high. So there's not even a deterrent for it either. House said it's called the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a big piece of legislation that I think is pretty important, but nobody really thinks about. You guys are making me laugh over there. Let's see here. Got this one from Elijah Schaefer. This is a funny post. Talking about not Elon Musk, but Steven Crowder It's been 48 hours since he's been off YouTube, and here's what he's putting out. This is again Crowder.
Okay, Mr. Candidate, where do you stand on the Constitution?
It's an antiquated doctrine that's in need of a few updates.
Uh-huh. And your stance on the First Amendment?
Scrap it.
Got it. How about the Second Amendment?
I'd take the axe to that.
And where do you line up on Israel?
Pro. Pro-Israel.
Here you go.
We'll watch that one more time.
Okay, Mr. Candidate, where do you stand on the Constitution?
It's an antiquated doctrine that's in need of a few updates.
Uh-huh. And your stance on the First Amendment?
Scrap it.
Got it. How about the Second Amendment?
I'd take the axe to that.
And where do you line up on Israel?
Pro.
Bro.
Pro-Israel.
Here you go.
He wasn't messing around or hesitating on that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Glad to see Steven Crowder over there not falling off, being independent, and not having to shut himself down because he spread himself too thin like the Daily Wire. I'm looking forward to seeing what all he gets into and with the direction that he takes his channel now that he's completely free of the YouTubes, right? JB, bro, money, all companion, cha-ching, yep. Reminds me of the South Park, where Cartman insists that Kyle has Drew Gold. Can I say that? It's an episode, so I'm just talking about that. Finally, at the end, he gives it up too. Let's see. So yeah, let's while we're on the Steven Crowder, let's move on to the next topic. But I'll let Steven Crowder start it off here. We're going to talk here about the recent story involving Jeff Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, who, by the way, the owner or co-founder or founder, I think is the owner of The Atlantic, currently is seen in a picture in wearing a bathing suit with Ghislaine Maxwell. So if that lends any information to who she is, there you have it. But let's see here. Jeffrey Goldberg was recently inadvertently added to a Signal group chat named Houthi PC Small Group by someone who believed to be Mike Walls. It was Mike Waltz. Mike Walls did that, and that's a retraction from the last show. I mentioned that it was Pete Hegseth. I think Pete Hegseth got a lot of hate. A lot of people ran with the fact, which is not a fact. Pete Hegseth was the one that added Jeffrey Goldberg to this Signal group, the group chat. But it was Mike Walls. He is the U.S. National Security Advisor under Donald Trump. This incident, which unfolded in mid-March 2025, has sparked widespread controversy and raised serious questions about the national security protocols within the Trump administration. The chain of events began on March 11th, 2025, when Goldberg received a Signal connection request from an account labeled Mike Waltz. 2 days later, on the 13th, he was added to the group chat, which appeared to include 18 senior administration officials, such as Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, sounded weird. CIA Director John Radcliffe, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, among others. Initially, Goldberg suspected it might be a hoax or disinformation attempt, but his doubts dissipated as the conversation unfolded. The group chat, which focused on coordinating U.S. airstrikes against Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, contained sensitive operational details. On March 15th, Goldberg observed real-time discussions about the strikes, including specifics on weapons packages, targets, and timing. Information shared just hours before the attacks were executed. Later that day, reports of explosions in Yemen's capital, Sana'a, confirmed the authenticity of the plan he had seen, with the Houthi official reporting 53 deaths from the strikes. So the National Security Council acknowledged the chat's authenticity with spokesperson Brian Hughes stating on March 24th that they were reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the thread. Waltz, who took responsibility for creating the group, described the inclusion of Goldberg as embarrassing during a Fox News interview on March 25th, but couldn't fully explain how it happened, suggesting a contact mix-up, like he had maybe added the wrong the number to the wrong name. Personally, I don't know why he would be adding this dude's number to his phone, period. But I don't know. It kind of boils down to what we've been saying on the channel, that Trump administration likes to, his cabinet likes to go to run to Fox News and still tries to appeal to the Democrats who hate them with their entire being. So it's time to go through your phones, delete any contact that's not somebody that helped you get elected from your phone, and never contact them again, right? And even call the contacts that you have in your phone and make sure the name and phone number align with the person that's supposed to answer it, right? We can't have these type of mistakes. There's some talk going on about the use of Signal even being allowed to legally have these type of discussions. Some people are saying it's top secret. Other people are claiming that it's not top secret. And Tim Pool has a good take on this that we're going to check out here in a minute. Let's see here. What else was in here that was... So the use of Signal, a secured encrypted messaging app not approved for classified government communications, drew sharp criticism. Federal laws prohibit using such platforms for official business unless messages are preserved for the National Archives, and the chat's disappearing. We'll talk about that as well, or Tim Pool mentions that as well, which is crazy because the chats in the Signal, the chat that they're doing in these Signal groups have like a self-destruct. They delete themselves after like a week or 10 days or something like that. So there's no like record of these conversations as well for the Federal Archive, which is super weird. Man, I don't actually like that. Let's see here. Officials like Hegseth denied sharing war plans, dismissing Goldberg as a discredited journalist, though the NSC's confirmation contradicted such claims. Meanwhile, the White House enlisted Elon Musk's technical team to investigate the error, highlighting the administration's scramble to address the fallout. The incident has fueled debates over competence, security, and transparency, with lasting implications still unfolding as of March 26th. So let's see here. Oh, I see Atlas is in here. How long you been waiting there, bud? Oh, 5 minutes. Oh, what's up, King Solo Wings? How you doing? Yeah, so Waltz is the snake, or he's the idiot there, alt companion. I'm not sure which one it is. Let's bring Atlas in if you're ready. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready there, bud. No, okay, he's not ready yet. What's up, Andrea? How you doing? Yeah, shame on you for being late. I'm glad to have you. Let's see here. Walt's wife works for the Atlantic Council, voted to enshrine gay marriage in the Constitution, and for the Constitution of funding for migrant refugee assistance and FISA warrantless spying. Okay, so that's not a good look on Waltz there. And you know, this is crazy because, you know, why is this dude's number in Waltz's phone? Was it like a fake business card was being given out at some kind of gathering that had a different person's name on it with this journalist's phone number on it? Or like, what's the situation? I hate when stuff like this comes up because it's a distraction from the main things that we're trying to get to the bottom of. And then now this will take precedent and be a type of distraction. And, you know, it just sucks when this stuff comes up for sure. Let's see here. Okay. You're good now. All right. Welcome in there, bud. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Fashionably late.
Yeah, very late. I actually got in way earlier than I thought I would.
Yeah, no.
Funny enough.
Chris said, "Give him the finger when you're ready, okay, Atlas?"
Yeah, right. No, I did. I was worried it's gonna put me on too early. I was trying to get the title put on for X. But yeah, no, it's cool news day. I was following along from the very beginning of the show too, so I know where we're at with everything as well.
Cool.
I had to take care of my daughter though. That's why I had to miss.
No, no worries. No worries. You're all good. We all support that. Evil Elmo says, wife made some weird foreign food for dinner. It was okay, but weird. She called it a salad or something like that.
That's funny.
You guys remember the old Bud Light or Budweiser commercials, the Real Men of Genius? I'm sure you guys do. They were super popular. But I remember the one that was giant taco salad inventor. That one was probably one of the best ones. He's like, the guy's like, is it healthy? Of course it is. It's a salad, isn't it? He's like, only you can put 1,300 calories in a salad. That was so good.
I used to be a salad fiend back in the day, man.
Yeah, I make a pretty fire grilled chicken salad.
That sounds good, like a Southwest chicken salad.
Yeah, I grill it up. I slice up chicken breasts and grill them in like on a pan, and then actually you can use Italian dressing as like a marinade, and you also pour a little bit in there in the pan, and then it like burns to the bottom of the pan. Like when the chicken starts getting the black stuff on the pan, you pour the Italian dressing in there. Not a whole lot, just like, I don't know, a quarter of a cup or something. And it takes all that black stuff off the bottom of the pan and sticks it to the food. And I tell you what, the stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pan is the flavor of whatever you're cooking. So you got to get that stuff up and back up on the food, and you get the most taste out of it. It makes it fire chicken. It's like a glaze.
Well, the very, very hot and probably unpopular food take, probably bother a lot of people in here. I refuse to eat steak or anything like that unless it's well done.
Really?
It has to be well done.
Oh, I'm medium rare.
Nothing like that, dude. This shit makes me gag. I can't do it, man.
Years ago, I made some medium rare steaks for a buddy and me over at the house on the grill. And he was like, dude, this is not cooked enough. And I was like, eat it. I'm not putting it back on the grill. Like, that's an abomination in my house, bro.
That's funny. No, I'm like, I grew up, I wouldn't say, poor, but, that's what we kind of grew up on, right? Well done in like almost every single steak we had. It's like I kind of like got used to that taste. And so I enjoy it. Man, I see some people making their pink steaks and stuff. That's disgusting to me. It took me years to even like eat sushi for the first time. Let alone like eat raw, red meat.
I don't like sushi, but my first experience was traumatizing. I was at one of those Japanese steakhouses for my birthday where they like cook everything right in front of you. Yeah. And they sit you at the table. It's like 9 people. So it's like your group and other people too. Like, so you don't know them. And I had a group of gay dudes that were sitting next to me. And I was with, like, I think it was just my wife. And so it was me and my wife and then these other people. And they're eating sushi and they found out it was my birthday. And they're like, oh, you got to try a piece of sushi. You never had it. And so like this dude was like touching it and like putting stuff on there and getting it ready and then handed it to me. I'm just like, do I really want to eat the food the gay dude touched? It's like, where's it was all running through my hand. It was all running through my head. I ate it, but I did not like it.
No, right. I wouldn't have either. Well, I was gonna say, it's funny you mentioned that. My parents out, I won't dox them at all, but they're out. They're on the West Coast for right now. They're not like not in the state anymore. And got a hilarious text from our group chat from, I believe it was either my father, one of the two, either my father or my mother. But it was my dad who had the text, and it was a picture of 3 homosexual guys walking in front of them down the strip. And the text read from my dad, it said, and it's to my brothers too, but it was like, if my mom ever catches me out wearing some kind of happy man wear like these queers, she'll beat the queer out of me. That's hilarious. But it was just a classic, like, you can just tell, how like when you see a guy, like when it's doing a Jubilee or a YouTube video or something, you can just tell, you just have that sense, or like, that guy's gay. Before you even said a word, it was like just the way he's like dressed and sitting, you could tell he's gay.
No, JB.
It's the same way with that photo. There's 3 guys you could just tell, like, oh, those guys are gay. Same way with, at the hibachi grill. You just look across from you and you're like, oh, those guys are gay.
Oh yeah, and these dudes were a little flamboyant. Not the worst, but they had some. It was a group of them, so there was some that were more so than the others. I mean, they were good. They were a fun group. It was a good time. It was just it had a weird moment. What was that you said?
I said, speaking of, is your mom in chat right now? Can we go to bat this early?
Oh no, no. So I don't know if you saw this in the Discord. Just so you guys know, it was the birthday of my little brother who had passed away in 2008 when he was 19. Last stream, so I'm pretty sure she was maybe having a drink or two and in her feelings and stuff. And yeah, that was awkward. I ended up spending about an hour and a half on the phone with her after this, and it was funny. I don't mind talking about it. She's like, why do you like Trump? Like, she hates Trump with every bit of her being. Like, she just absolutely hates him. And she didn't like him before he was president either, by the way. But now she hates him even more. And I told her some stuff. I told her why I liked Elon. Said that he's a hero to some people. Mentioned how he brought the astronauts home from the space station and things like that. And it's funny. It's like she's receptive to what I'm saying. And no, you're good, Chris. I think she was more reacting to the show as well. But it's funny. I was making good points, and then she'd be like, yeah, but then I finished and I was like, but I like Donald Trump, so you can't agree with anything that I just said. She's like, kind of. It was like I said a bunch of stuff that she agreed with, but then the one caveat was that I like Donald Trump, so she can't believe it. It's a tough thing, man. Trump derangement syndrome is real. And she mentioned I have the brother that thinks he's my sister. And we got in contact after that. So, hopefully we can come to some kind of understanding. You know what I mean? But yeah, she was hot. She was hot and ready to roll in chat. She was fine. She was
very funny. Coming
in hot. That was funny. No, but I don't even know if she'd have the capability of streaming and coming on and debating. And sorry, the chicken's still dealing with the leg. I thought she was getting better the other day, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with her. Right. Maybe she has a neurological thing. It seems like her leg is actually like becoming not like losing use. So it's not a
atrophy. Is it like getting smaller or gimpy?
No, but she keeps like, instead of sitting right side up, now she's like kind of on her side, and like the one leg like isn't touching anything. So it's either hurts really bad and she'd rather it just not touch anything, or she's like
forgetting how to use it,
becoming paralyzed or something. Yeah, I'm not 100%, but it's a bummer. She's a big old, healthy hen until all of a sudden. But she's only got a week or two left, and then I'm gonna have to make a decision if she doesn't start showing signs of improvement, which sucks, but it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Well, I don't think we'll do it on air, but maybe I can make a video on my little World's Backyard channel of the dispatching machine that I have. But I don't look forward to those days.
Right.
Let's see here.
I hate that I derailed though.
No, you're good.
I didn't catch it the last like 5 minutes. I wasn't sure where you were at.
Well, I just read through kind of a description of what's going on with this Jeffrey Goldberg dude, that it was Mike Waltz that actually added him to the group, and that there's some controversy going back and forth over, is it actually legal to use Signal in the manner that they did. The left is saying that, just picking up, basically the left is saying that it's top secret information, it's war information, when it was just a strike. There wasn't really a whole lot in it.
Yeah. Well, you see how they're calling it Signalgate now too, right? It's like now it's got its own name, and they're trying to make classically this is really kind of just like making a mountain out of a molehill.
Right.
I think what the worst look about this is the fact that now it is blowing up into like this large thing, and it's going to turn into a lawsuit. And now we're going to hear about Signalgate probably for the next couple of weeks.
Right. It sucks. It's such a distraction.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is one of those stories that you think about. Then what are they hiding? Like, what else is going on then currently that they don't want you to be paying attention to? Because this is a big nothing burger story.
Right.
The downside is just like what you're really seeing inevitably is the fact that Matt, what's his name, Matt Waltz, right? It's kind of very confusing because it sounds like Matt or Mike Waltz, right? Is
yeah.
His name?
Mike Waltz. It sounds like Tim Walz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think Dave Rubin even confused him for said the wrong name earlier on the show on Pierce Morgan.
That's what I keep wanting to say. But Richard Anini, as much as I don't like him, did post the screenshot this morning that shows from Mike Waltz end that he was the one who added Goldberg to the group chat.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Waltz, obviously, he's the one who did add him, right? Pete Hegseth is the one that's catching all the flack.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
But Mike Waltz was the one that, you can see it verbatim, right? It'll tell you, people know how group chats work, right? When you add somebody, it'll say, hey, Donnie added Worrell to the group chat. You'll get like that little kind of notification. So that screenshot was available for people to see because what they had pulled that when they had dumped the whole logs out there since for full release. Although I didn't go through them at all.
Did it say his name? I got that pulled up right here. Actually, I think I got the list right here.
Yeah, the one I bookmarked the one in particular from Richard Hanina, that had like the multi-million viral tweet there, the one that kind of broke it this morning. But this is the reality, right? It just like they could have just owned up on it and been like, yeah, we made a mistake. But instead, you have people like DC Drano who are running around like, oh man, like what kind of deep state CIA operative went and planted this one specific button trap? So when they sent these messages, the CIA got them, guys. And it's like, or it could have just been like a literal mistake. Or in this case, what it looks like is that Mike Waltz, who has some very questionable connections, with not only just his wife, but like his staffers that are with him as well, with previous involvements with other kind of espionage. I believe it was with China, right, with the CCP. Like, why is he? That guy shouldn't be privy to any kind of information at all. He already seems like he's going to be a loose nut. But what I think I did see inevitably, though, was this whole incident has now caused Kash Patel. I'm unsure of, but Tulsi Gabbard lied under oath over this now. So like I don't remember what explicit statement that she had, but in this lawsuit already, like she's lying under oath over this, and it's like, dude, bro, it was just like this guy was an idiot, or like he did this on purpose to leak a story because he maybe got paid under the table or something along those lines. Like, who knows? But now it's like nothing's helping because all of the right wingers are being very tribalistic about it. And I think the point's true. Like, even I agreed with Krasenstein, right? Like, if say this had happened under the Biden administration, we wouldn't have let up on it because it'd have been like, see, look, the classic Biden administration, bunch of idiots running the show over there. Was he this old man, add this person in the group chat? And so now the right wing's like, oh, this is such a non-story. And it is a non-story. But the reality is like, why aren't our guys just like owning up to it and being like, yeah, that's our mistake, that's our bad. Or saying like, hey, Mike Waltz, we're going to look into it. We think he was the person who leaked it. But it's turning into this massive, big, major story that like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, who really kind of even cares? Because there was no really deeply specific things that got leaked out of there, although it was war, military operations, and at least like the speaking to them. We had them within 2 hours of being told as well, so it's maybe like a little bit of risk there. But I think in the end, it's just a massive nothing burger, and I'm kind of thinking, what now is happening that none of us are paying attention to? Because my feed is just full of this story from Signalgate.
Well, Tim Pool has a theory. I want to play it, and then I want to play Pierce Morgan's theory. But first, I want to play Steven Crowder's theory over it. So we're going to get into just a few different guys, and let's start with Steven Crowder since we're already kind of on the Crowder track, right?
Here's another claim that's making the rounds out there, all references available, that the leaked chats show some discord among the ranks over there at the Trump administration.
In this chat, there was a moment where J.D. Vance questioned...
First off, pause for a second.
Judgment.
It's very hard to take a journalist seriously who looks like that chick from Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah.
No!
But let's continue with the clip.
In this chat, there was a moment where J.D. Vance questioned POTUS's judgment about this Houthi bombing. And then he had to be talked back and ended up, agreeing. And they were all
good. I'm glad that they're all not just yes men. I'm glad Trump didn't surround himself with yes men like the left accused him of doing, right? Remember the whole time during Trump's campaign, they're sitting here going, Trump's just going to surround himself with people that won't challenge him on anything. Well, they just confirmed right there that JD Vance, we saw it in the text, had a question about it.
On side. But I think it's a window into, there is going to be at some point, presumably, some actual opposition to the president and the way it's going on, not just foreign policy, but what's happening with the economy, tariffs, Canada.
Okay. So discord among the Trump administration. Okay. Here's the truth. It shows the opposite of that. Actually, it shows that these people are actually having healthy discussions, some slight disagreements, and they're comfortable enough to voice their disagreements. I would recommend that you go and read them. This is actually the kind of leadership that I would like to see.
Yeah.
And it also gave us this banger of a conversation between Hegseth and Vance, where Vance said, if you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. And then Hegseth saying to Vance, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. Good.
I don't want to read the rest of that. Let's see here. Where's it at? There it is. It's pathetic, but Mike is correct. We're the only ones on the planet on our side of the ledger who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. I feel like now is a good time as any given POTUS directive to reopen shipping lanes. I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space. Okay, so it was all respectful of Trump's final decision. And once again, they mentioned the shipping lanes.
Look at that too, right? Who does he mention? Who's the person that Hegseth mentions there? Mike, right? He says, but Mike is correct.
Mike, okay.
So if that's the same Mike Waltz, right? The Mike Waltz that inevitably probably just leaked this to the Atlantic and is also the one who's probing it, right? He's like, yeah, let's do it now. Do it now. And I could send this story over to the Atlantic. It could also be a little bit of that, right? And that's also a question of then is who is Mike Waltz then? I think maybe the ultimate consequence of this is Mike Waltz is gone. You're just terminated out of the space. You're entirely untrustworthy. And let alone too, if all of your sentiments that came in that private conversation were to spurn and get forward with whatever story you're about to leak, also it's like, well, now you got to question what his advice was. And if Pete Hegseth is using that as validation for, to corroborate his reasoning to go forward, then too, it's a bit questionable about who is that close to the president, especially in terms of private communications.
100%. And to be honest, I'd rather see Waltz go than Hegseth go if one of the two has to be fired or stepped down. We fought a lot harder for Hegseth than we did for Waltz, and it would be a shame to see him have to go. But if it was Hegseth's fault, we'd say it was his fault, and I would still maintain the same position that if this weren't a nothing burger, because let's just be real about it, nobody should really be fired. But if this situation, demanded it, at least it's not going to be Hegseth. At least in my opinion, I think that's a better way.
Right. Well, I wanted to go back to one of the House's comments here because I was going to pull that up, but he just has it basically listed out here. That Waltz's wife works for the Atlantic Council. Mm-hmm. She voted to enshrine gay marriage in the Constitution and for the continuation of funding for migrant refugee assistance and FISA warrantless spying.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so not somebody that you want that close to Donald Trump, that's for sure.
It's unfortunate that these people that own these, publication apparatus, these, news sources or whatever, not sources, but these news, whatever the hell they'd be called. I don't even know anymore. Used to just be a news channel, but these are websites, programming, social media, whatever it is, are also activists. Why can't they just report the news, right? Fact check, good old, fact check your sources and report the news. Instead, everything's an activist. Everybody's pushing an agenda. And it's just, it's a shame. It's a shame. But Tix Bomber mentions, I'll listen to people shitting on Europe all day, just saying, LOL, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Especially since that new release that came out like a month ago about all the child stuff that they were protecting and ignoring and all that type of stuff. But He also mentions Tick says, I'm in the 90%. All top secret communications is heavily mediated by the NSA to prevent the very thing they're pretending happened from happening. Yeah. So I don't know. The CIA director in defense of using Signal app for, top secret messaging and whatever, said to Congress yesterday, I think it was yesterday at least, that Signal was installed by the people that run the CIA. I don't know. I mean, he's the director, but the people that got him set up said that they installed Signal on all their computers and devices. So I think it's one of those things where trying to get to the bottom of how this guy's number got on the phone, maybe that was a part of it. You know what I mean? Maybe it was already on there. I don't think that these people should be allowed to add individuals' names just on a whim. Like, oh, I met this guy, I'm going to add him to my phone, add him to his Signal chat. I think that stuff should be kind of controlled and regulated a little bit more heavily, just for the sake of, protecting classified or just valuable information, right? Also, it should be backed up. It shouldn't be on a scenario where, like it is on this Signal stuff, that self-deletes after 7 days or 10 days or whatever it is that it's set up to delete. But let's finish this off, and then I want to play these other two videos real quick.
Good. They're the people they claim to be. They loathe Europe. I loathe Europe.
Yeah.
They're just like me.
That right there makes it seem like they wanted that to get out.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
Like they're like, oh, I want to say this so bad, but
I can't.
if only we had somebody else say it for us.
Yeah. Like, maybe these Europeans have a false sense of confidence, especially if Germany knew how we felt about them. And Germany's like, what? Oh, 9. Worked like a charm.
About me?
What? I thought we were friends.
It also made it seem like he's one of the most pro, like, America first people out there, where he's like, hey, 3% of our shipping goes through there. What do we care about this? It's really Europe's problem. If we do it, we got to get something out of it.
Right.
Like, hey, pay for it. This is going to cost us men and material potentially. So
It does seem like an indirect way to tell Europe, hey, you're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Ungrateful bastards.
It's like
We have to do this.
accidentally, like you have a gift receipt, but accidentally including the real receipt when you buy an expensive gift.
Oh,
Like,
no. How'd that
what?
get in there?
Oh.
How did that get in there?
man.
Oh, what was it? What was it that Pete got you? It was only 200. Oh, but it's not a competition.
I'm such an airhead.
Those guys crack me up. They got a good crew over there, although I thought it was better with Dave instead of the new comedians they have around. But following that up, I want to play this intro from Piers Morgan. It's a couple minutes long. He ends asking a question, and I'm curious what chat thinks of this scenario, because it's an uncomfortable question to answer, I think.
The bungling of sensitive information by top officials is sadly nothing new. President Clinton used his very final day in office to pardon the CIA director for keeping classified documents on his home computer. His wife Hillary infamously stored top secret files on a private email server. President Trump was indicted for keeping classified files at Mar-a-Lago.
Night, Chris.
President Biden avoided being indicted for keeping classified files in the garage next to his Corvette because the special counsel felt he was an elderly man with a poor memory. In each case, the other side has demanded jail time and resignations galore. That is the nature of modern tribal partisan politics. So it's difficult to blame Democrats in their current punch-drunk miasma of despair for seizing on moments like this.
How did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Seems quite clear that Jeffrey Goldberg was sucked into his group by Mike Waltz, who was the one that added him to the group. The Atlantic editor was able to see Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, among others, discussing an imminent bombing raid on the Houthis in Yemen and making Europe pay for it. The consequences were limited. The US attack on the Houthis was a military success. Trump's position on Europe paying its fair share for defense is perfectly clear already, but it's still incredibly embarrassing. And Mike Waltz got a bit closer to the correct response when he said this.
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
Whether he did it deliberately? You mean you? It's just such a weird thing to say, right? And this is why
avoiding accountability.
This is why you don't cross the streams, right? Charlie Kirk shouldn't be going on Gavin Newsom's podcast. These people shouldn't be going on Fox News or dealing with media. They need to keep all these phones, you know what I mean? It's just stay in your lane. Quit trying to, I don't know. It's just too much. I mean, here he is on Fox News again, right? Trump's cabinet on Fox News. This time it's Laura Ingraham.
Right.
It shouldn't be too hard to figure that out. President Trump is the grandmaster of deny and deflect, and he has enough legitimate grievances with the way he's been treated by legacy media to repeatedly pull that off. But with respect to Mike Waltz, he's no Donald Trump. And this might have gone away a lot faster if his first response had been, I'm sorry, this was a monumental cock-up. It was incredibly stupid, and I won't do it again. Instead, Goldberg's been attacked for saying the chat included classified information and detailed war plans, but failing to prove it.
Now, the Secretary of Defense and the White House press secretary have said you're lying, have said there are no war plans there, have said there's no classified information. So the obvious question is, shouldn't you now demonstrate it? Shouldn't you publish the text?
No, because they're wrong. They're wrong.
But how can you prove that you're wrong? Maybe should you provide them to the House and Senate Special Committees on Intelligence? Maybe. I don't know.
Wow. Well, you want to become my lawyer?
Weasel conversing with Weasel. Tim Miller and what's his name? Jeffrey Goldberg. Yeah. Like, dude, Weasel on Weasel conversation.
Yeah. You prove that you're wrong. Maybe should you provide them to
Sorry,
the House
back.
Committees on Intelligence?
Sorry, I bounced it back. I'm gonna play another 45 seconds.
I don't know.
Wow. Well, you want to become my lawyer?
Well, Tim Miller will be joining us shortly, and The Atlantic has indeed this morning published compelling new details on why the chat was clearly classified and obviously did include war plans. The texts make it blindingly obvious that that was the case. That only strengthens the point. President Trump's first 65 days in office has been a whirlwind blitz of reform, and there's plenty to celebrate and plenty to debate. Arguing that whether the dog ate Mike Waltz's homework should never have been allowed to take center stage. For the first time in his second presidency, it's time for the president to wield his formidable index finger and use the words that made him world famous. You're fired.
Yep.
Well, joining me now is the host of Rubin Report.
He's going to ask a question.
The Democrat congressman from Massachusetts, Jake Auchincloss, and Walkaway campaign founder, Brandon Straka. And as I said, Tim Miller will be joining us very shortly. All right, Dave Rubin. I want you to pretend for a moment this was happening on Joe Biden's watch when he was president and involved a bunch of senior members of the Democrat cabinet in that administration. I would imagine your response would have been Vesuvian in its rage and fury. So my question for you is, do you feel the same way now it's your side?
And that's what the question that I thought was a good question, because we would have eviscerated, Joe Biden's cabinet for doing something like this. And
rightfully so.
Right, and rightfully so. And so it's one of those things where it comes down to proving you're not in the cult and proving that you're not a cult. And this is one of those opportunities where we can stand up and say, look, whoever did this, if it was malicious, rather malicious or stupid, probably should step down. You know what I mean? And it sucks for Waltz, but I want to say Tim Walz, but I know these Walz guys, both of them need to be out. Just both of them, I guess, at this point, especially with these
nobody with like an NPC name too. That it's like, who is the guy again? Like, it's Yeah, but it's right. Like he needs fired immediately. Right. Just make the story go away. But that's the thing, though, is it's like it's now went up a level because they couldn't have just handled it quickly and accountably and responsibly. That's why, and I wanted to share this too, which I do have the screenshot from Richard Hanania, which does show exactly what it was, which is that Mike Waltz added him to the group chat, right? Houthi PC small group. This is the screenshot that they have, and it's this section right here. Michael Waltz added you to the group. Now he had said so as well.
I want to know what he's labeled as under Mike Waltz's phone.
It's just initials. So I'd actually saw another screenshot from Mike Waltz's side of the Signal app, and he just has JG is the initial on the contact for Jeffrey Goldberg, which, like he had mentioned, he may have been looking, maybe thought he typed in 2 other kind of initials. Maybe, it could have been honestly an honest mistake, but also that raises another question too, which is, why does Mike Waltz have Jeffrey Goldberg's, who's known for this kind of anti-Trump stuff, to be on his phone? Like, why would that be a contact that you save? I think that's also the question too. If it is a mistake, then what's the connection there? Why would that guy why would you want him to be on your phone at all?
Right. Are you leaking information to this dude or what? Like, why do you have the line of connection? The line of communication?
Right. It's questionable all around, which is why I think even if it was a mistake, that might also be a little bit worse, which is like, maybe this guy's just at the ready, right? Whoever will pay him the highest buck, he'll bend towards, right? And or do whatever for kind of reputation. Right. Not like this Mike Waltz guy is a very, very well known individual, just kind of only known for all the negative stuff, which House had pointed out earlier.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that because there is an explicit screenshot, that was from Richard Hanania, and it's almost like 3 million views now from this morning. Some of the first stuff that had broken from that. But the reason why I think it's such a big deal is what Clint Russell brings up. Now there's a video here, but we'll play the Tim Pool one first. But I just wanted to make sure I corroborated and had that correct before I said it again. But he basically writes, as is usually the case, the cover-up is now worse than the crime. It looks like Waltz added the journo, and then he should have taken the blame. But what we got instead was, because nothing happened quickly, was now Hegseth went on TV and lied. And then worse, Tulsi and Cash both testified under oath that it included no strike details, but supposedly it did.
Go ahead and play that if you want.
What's that?
I was going to say, go ahead and play that if you want to. The Tim Pool one that I got it's 6 minutes, but he gives a whole different perspective to this, which makes it even more of a nothing burger, which I think is what it really, really is. But
well, I'm pretty sure it's Peter Ducey right here.
Okay.
He's going to ask questions about this. I'm positive that's who it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. People might know better than me, but make sure.
I'm not sure what he looks like.
I just spoke to the president about it, yes.
Then let me ask you again very quickly. In the chat, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, details F-18s, Tomahawks, so some of the weapons that were used. He details the timing involved for this, all of which occurred 31 minutes before, as he says, F-18s would launch. The DoD manual details classified information as significant military plans, saying that is secret, that's classified. So what about, there are no methods, there are no sources, but that's not what determines what's classified. So what is it about what Pete Hegseth wrote that makes you say this is not classified?
Well, it's not just me saying that, Peter. It's the Secretary of Defense himself who is saying this as well. And he put out a very strong statement earlier today listing all of the things that were not included in that message that he sent to the group. And again, this message, there was no classified information transmitted. There were no war plans discussed. Why did the Atlantic downgrade their allegation about war plans to attack plans? They're now playing word games because they know this was sensationalist spin from a reporter who is well known for doing this. We have said all along no war plans were discussed, no classified material was sent. You have the Secretary of Defense saying that. You have the director of the CIA, the director of national intelligence, the FBI director, all testifying to that under oath, and they should be trusted with that.
To be clear, Americans can make the decision for themselves, but whether is the you said it's not war plans. Would you characterize these as military plans, military operation plans?
I would characterize this messaging thread as a policy discussion, a sensitive policy discussion, surely, amongst high-level cabinet officials and senior staff. And I'm so glad, Peter, that you said the American public can decide for themselves, because I think the American public should decide for themselves based on the outcome of this operation. And what happened in this operation? Terrorists that were allowed to run wild by the Biden administration were killed because of the direction and the determination of this president and his team. And this message also shows, this messaging thread also proved that President Trump has an incredibly dynamic team who is working incredibly hard, flying all over the world to secure world peace and to fix up the foreign policy crises that the previous administration left for this team to inherit.
So to be clear, we all in this room and around the country would agree that we're glad no American service members were harmed, and we're glad that the mission was a success. We'll stipulate that. But the president said that Pete Hegseth said none of this was classified. So given the president has seen it now, and given the president understands that significant military plans are deemed classified as secret, how does the president view none of this, which details times and weapons and more, as being not classified?
I've already been asked and answered this question. The president's thoughts on this remain the same today as they were yesterday, as well as the Secretary of Defense. This question has been asked and answered. There was no classified material discussed.
That's crazy. So, okay, that is true then. That's the part I wanted to wait to hear him say. Okay. So I didn't get to go through the full thing that got released. So then he basically adds in there then, because he wants to change it, right? You know, the war plan, sensationalism. Mm-hmm. But he then stipulates again, though, to be sure that it was timing was involved in there, and weapons and locations. So all three of those, I mean, like, especially when he's kind of like, he's bringing it back to what the definition is, right? Of what strike details are, like what it would fall under, like definition wise. That's why I didn't think this was a good spin. I'd seen this from somebody else, thought it was a good spin. I just don't think it's a good spin. Painting it its back is like, well, you know, what if Biden would have done this or another administration would have done this? It's like, who cares about that, really?
Right.
She tried to do her best. But again, you know, props to Peter Doocy, right? This is the guy everybody cheered on during the Biden administration because he was literally the only person willing to ask the hard questions. And bravo again, because here he is with the Trump administration asking hard questions. So props to Peter Doocy for doing this. I know it probably doesn't feel very loved, right? To not play travel politics and just always ask the hard questions. It's like a journalist, what you're supposed to do. But that's the part I was concerned about, which then does mean then if they testified under oath, I mean, it's just a bad look. It's just all of this for nothing. All this for something so very little, instead of just accepting the fact that, like, yeah, we made a stupid mistake. We could have just all moved on.
Yeah, it's definitely a stupid mistake. And, you know, it's funny. He's like, this he mentioned, and I don't know if this is actually Peter Doocy. I think that is a different. I think he's a different guy. I want to look him up now. Actually, let me see. That's not the same guy.
It's not. Okay.
No, he's got like almost blondish hair. I looked it up on Google, so I can't put it on the screen because I'm using Brave for the stream.
Oh, I'll look it up. Let me look this up here. Peter.
Yeah, that's definitely not him. Are
you sure?
I think so. I think it's a different guy. That dude has like gray hair.
Let me go back. Yeah,
that guy's got that Hunter Biden look.
Yeah, that guy's crazy.
So yeah, I tried to scroll down and actually see if the guy's name was mentioned in there. I didn't see it mentioned anywhere, but
me either. Well, shout out to that guy though.
Yeah,
I was
still
totally wrong. I'll take that.
Good critique. But I will say, Donald Trump has as the American president, you know, as the U.S. president, has the ability to declassify. We've already been through this with his Mar-a-Lago raids and stuff. So all he has to do is just declassify it, and then it's not classified anymore. It's obviously not war action. Congress hasn't declared war. We've been through all of that type of conversation with Dan McKnight in the past. Congress hasn't declared war since the 60s or maybe even beyond that, longer ago than that. So they're not discussing war because we're not at war, you know? So it's kind of a conflation, a little bit at least.
Yeah, but wasn't that Dan's contention? was that we do all of these things that would otherwise under normal principles would constitute like war actions, but we do all of these things under like what do they call them? Military authorizations of force, whatever that acronym is.
Right.
Instead of like actually like debating amongst Congress whether this is something that we should be doing, because regardless, it will put military servicemen, at risk for these choices that are made.
Right.
As well as like obviously it probably will funnel people from the National Guard getting moved around to different areas they shouldn't be at.
Right.
That's like, I mean, again, like I always going to be a bit more libertarian when it comes to the war front, especially because there's like very little benefit in there. When they alluded to that with JD Vance as well, right? JD Vance's pushback was like, we're literally getting nothing from this either. Like this is seemingly we're doing this for the sake of Europe, which is why that conversation happened there. But that's, I just to go back to what Clint says right here, right? Which is, the fact that this messaging had the exact times and the weapon system for the attacks. The only thing that I was missing was the coordinates. He says it was obviously a big mistake and they should just own it and move on. And that's just not what's happening. We're playing like the politics game of, oh no, we didn't do anything wrong actually. And and that seems like super, super weak coming from an administration in that one that we were in. And I say rightfully so too. That nitpicked every little mistake that was ever made by the previous administration.
Right. I mean, it would have been refreshing to see them come out and just be like, look, we made a mistake. We're trying to figure out exactly how the mistake was made. I mean, they're kind of saying this. Walls is at least, or Waltz. We made a mistake. We're trying to figure out how the mistake happened. Thankfully, there wasn't anything that put Americans' lives at risk. We didn't jeopardize the airstrike, which, Trump did these type of airstrikes before when it came to getting that Baghdadi guy and the other one too. Can't think of it off. Soleimani, I think. But so this is kind of right up Trump's alley for just sending in the airstrike, getting the top target, not messing around, not sending in dudes other than the pilots flying the F-18s or whatever. Tix Bomber asked to show the other guy again. To show the guy again, I guess.
It's not have this issue every time. Oh yeah, but this yeah. Where was I at? Yeah, this is the guy who's asking the questions, and then I'll go Peter Ducey again. And that's Peter Ducey.
Yeah. Yeah, I recognize Peter Ducey. The other guy looks like Hunter Biden. Now do Hunter Biden and show them side by side. Was that Hunter Biden?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hunter Biden cleaned up and started asking questions.
Got himself some press credentials. It looks like he's grinding his teeth right there.
Yep. He's got the massive eyes, dude. He's got just the bug out eyes.
Okay, so I want to show you guys this this clip from Tim Pool. It's 6 minutes long. I know some of you guys don't care for Tim, but this is a different perspective on the whole scenario, and also, like I said, it's more of a nothing burger. But I like what he says here.
It's the scandal of the week. It's not even the biggest scandal that's rocked the Trump administration.
I wonder why it's not showing.
It's the scandal of the week. And I'm just sitting here being like, why are they so obsessed over this? Honest question. We can assume it was a blunder. Part of me still thinks that this was probably a PR stunt and that they wanted to shift the narrative in the press cycle related to deportations. And they wanted to be able to espouse a specific key message on why they were striking the Houthis in Yemen. And they were able to do that. Yesterday, today, this morning, the only thing that I'm seeing is stories about these hearings, calls for Pete Hegseth to resign. And I'm like, okay, wait, hold on. What exactly was leaked in these messages? There's only one thing in this whole group chat that actually looks like it might be worrying, but it's not even that worrying. And it's Pete Hegseth saying F-18 strike, then at this time we're going to do this, at this time we're going to do this. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, maybe they wanted the guy to know. I don't know why it's a big deal. I mean, I suppose the argument is, though they're certainly hamming it up like it's the worst thing in the world, fine. But it's nothing on Afghanistan and Joe Biden. Now, there's one thing I would say personally. The revelation that there are signal chats set to disappear after 1 week, that I call shenanigans on. Why isn't anybody bringing that up?
Just real quick, Temple, you don't call shenanigans, you declare shenanigans. I hate when people say it wrong.
How come that's not in the hearings? That's at the headlines. The real headline here is the Trump administration is discussing strikes in a foreign country, and they're having the messages disappear after a week. That should be in the public record. Even still, I ain't even that stressed about it. But this is it. You know, I often describe morals versus principles, and there's a reality that I think most people realize. When your side oversteps, you forgive it because you have faith in what they're doing in the bigger picture. And when your opponents overstep, you don't. But usually it's because it's in relation to what aligns with your morals, not the idea of principles, because, well, principles can be applied in multiple directions, right? You can say you're for free speech, but then you want some things banned. People on the right say porn, people on the left say hate speech. So is it really free speech? Well, yes, because my frees mean I get it. So I was thinking about this, and I kind of wonder, first, it's not that big a deal, to be completely honest. I know the left is going to say, how could you, Tim? If it was Joe Biden, you'd be losing your mind. You'd be apoplectic. And I'm like, no, like a little bit, maybe. But a journalist being told about plans is normal. Like that's what I don't get. The militaries, administrations routinely loop journalists in on what they're doing. So when they're like, we accidentally did this time too, I'm like, okay. Now, I suppose the argument is fair. What if they accidentally put someone else in? You know, a rebel or the Taliban. I mean, what if Trump slipped in a banana peel? There's a lot of what ifs. So, okay, right? We're glad that's the case, but a journalist getting access to information from the government, isn't that what journalists should be excited about? The funny thing is, I got to be honest, guys. The Trump administration's playing this one all wrong. If I was in the Trump admin and Jeffrey Goldberg said they accidentally sent me their war plans, I'd respond with, no, we intentionally sent him our war plans. What do you mean, Jeffrey? But here we are. They've actually published the full messages. I'm going to show you what was said. And you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be like, okay, I guess. Now, to be fair, if you hate Donald Trump, then you're going to be reposting this and spam blasting it because any banana peel or implied banana peel is good. Donald Trump gets asked about this, and he says, I'm hearing it for the first time. I don't know what you're talking about. He then said, I'm not going to fire Mike Waltz. Guys, they accidentally told a journalist. That's the story. I actually am not even convinced it was accidental. And I think that's what they should have led with. They should have, it wasn't an accident. We were relaying to the editor-in-chief of a large publication our intentions. We wanted them to be privy to this information, and we expected them to maintain confidentiality. That's what I said. That's just me, though. And then Jeffrey Goldberg would look like a moron. He'd be like, wait, it wasn't an accident. No, it wasn't an accident. Why do you think we have your phone number? We were informing a journalist that the story, we do this stuff all the time. I mean, seriously, I have sources. I've talked to sources and they'll say, hey, we're working on this thing. I'm not going to get into great detail, but I've talked with prominent executives of various government institutions. And they've said, here's what we're looking at, potentially doing. This is not for publication just yet. Take a look at the embargo that just happened at the White House when they brought all the influencers in and said, here are the Epstein documents, but don't post about it until after 3:00. That's normal. So if they were to be like, Jeffrey, we're looping you in on this one because we want you to be aware of our communications, whatever. They could have come out and said, honestly, the only mistake I guess we made is we assumed Jeffrey Goldberg would have understood that we were trying to relay this information to him because there's nothing in it. Guys, there's only like one message and it's not even that big a deal. It was sent only a couple hours before the strikes to a journalist. Now, the funny thing is they're calling for Hegseth and Waltz to resign. And I'm going to, I like to browse, as I mentioned, leftist subreddits and watch their channels and see what they're on about. And they're all blaming Pete Hegseth for it. Why are you blaming Hegseth for it? Now, you can argue the buck stops with the leadership, but Pete Hegseth didn't make the group chat. Mike Waltz did.
Yeah, well, they're going to just take as much as they can with it, right?
Right.
Whether
Just like
Pete Hegseth,
just like the right would if it was Biden, right? I mean, this is no withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, that was way worse. But
yeah, no, I agree too. It's like nothing major by any means. But I think that thing does stick, right? Like it could have. I mean, it could also have been a PR stunt as well. You know, in that regard, like I'm not going to give props to Trump on that. You know, especially if the way that Tim Pool framed it, right? Get deportations out of the mainstream and get the news cycle to focus on justifying why we're going to be, you know, military striking another foreign country. I think that's overall just bad too for the things that JD Vance had even said in those messages, which is this is inconsistent with your messaging. This doesn't seem very America first by any means. Especially just for on the behalf of Europe too, right? I'm glad JD at least had forwarded that. But the reality is we'll take that optimistic take. And why is the Trump administration trying to get the ire off of their back when it comes to deportations that we're already not getting? And then focus on an issue that no one really even cares about, right? No average person really cares about what we're striking militarily wise. They care about what's happening here domestically. Right. And all in all, it's like, again, that's still one of my major points, which is like, I'm heavily disappointed in the fact that we're not getting them at this point. As much as I know is bad about, what's his name, Eric Prince, with Blackwater and all of his bad connections, as well as, with, like the disconnected phone and all that kind of Project Network stuff and his involvement there. I'll take anything at this point that gets people out of this country. I literally would take anything at this point. And so I think it's overall just bad, but I kind of tend to disagree there and agree with Clint Russell. His major point is the fact that it looks like Hegseth, Cash, and Tulsi all ran cover for Mike Waltz, when it would have just been easier, simpler, and more transparent had they all just said, oh no, Mike Waltz was the one that organized this. Waltz was the one who added him into the group chat. Maybe even say whether it was intention or an accident, and just been upfront about that. But why are they lying on, under oath? That's the part that doesn't make any sense. It was a PR stunt.
Right. Yes. It's messed up that they were put under oath so quickly. It's definitely a distraction. But I wonder if Tim Pool was talking about the deportations or lack of deportations, or if he was talking about the story about deporting the people that, they're basically throwing them on the jets and, the big battle that they have with the judge, the activist judge, another one who, ordered the flights come back and turn around, and you can't send these people out of their country and all this stuff like that. I don't know if it's maybe that story or just the overall lack of deportations, but I do, I do like hearing all the different perspectives, multiple different perspectives, and trying to come to like the conclusion, the best conclusion that we can. And I think that was a good point that Tim Pool mentioned, that, journalists are included in a lot of these type of things, but let's be real. They're not going to include that journalist, right? They're going to go to Fox News. That's what this cabinet does. So I would have bought that story had it been Sean Hannity, the person that was added to the text group, not this dude, right? This dude that wrote multiple pieces going after Donald Trump.
Right.
Let's see here. Tix Bomber says, why didn't they pull the old, we don't talk about ongoing investigations? Heard that for 4 years straight. I know, right? Transparency gets you into more trouble almost than just keeping it tight-lipped. And it's so weird, right? But I prefer a transparent, good faith effort, right? Rather than just keep everything locked away and blocked like the Biden administration did. That's for sure. That's for sure. And JD Vance responded and said, it's very clear Goldberg oversold what he had. But one thing in particular, it really stands out. Remember when he was attacking Ratcliffe for blowing the cover of a CIA agent? Turns out Ratcliffe was simply naming his chief of staff. And so this dude was this Goldberg dude was saying that he redacted part of the text line that it blew the cover of a CIA agent. And even later, they talk about it later on in that Pierce Morgan video. And he's like, and thankfully it was him that was the one, or maybe it wasn't Pierce Morgan, but somebody on there's like, thankfully it was Goldberg that was the one that was in there, because somebody else would have just blew the guy's cover or gal's cover or whatever. It's just like, good Lord, right? Hey, what's up, Earl's daughter? Good to see you. And so, hey, I got this fringe story. What else can we say about this real quick before we move off of it, actually?
Well, the only thing I had to add to it would just been Anomaly's take here, too. Just a little extra side point there as well. So Anomaly, people might be familiar with him. He's a bit more of the dissident right type, but independent. I've been doing stuff on YouTube for some time now. I've only even seen him because of Jeff Younger, and he had conversations there. But he writes that Trump's admin's embarrassing themselves right now trying to cover for this guy. So it's such an unnecessary sideshow right now. And to point though, Ina Bauer, who I have no idea who that is, but saying that Mike Waltz claimed that he's never met, doesn't know, and never communicated with Goldberg. And then she provides a photo of Waltz next to Goldberg during a 2021 event at the French embassy. It's also hard to claim like you never met, don't know, or never communicated with somebody when they're like saved by initials in your phone, right? Like if you saved as JG in your phone, like you would have to imagine like you would at least have some
he did that.
level of knowledge, right? Where it's like, who JG would be.
Well, I think he did it for a reason, to hide the guy's identity in his phone. Somebody goes through his phone, they're like, they see JG and they don't necessarily know who it is or whatever. I don't know if that's type of transparency is available or not, but it's kind of like, I want to have this guy in my phone. I'd rather go through his phone right now and look at what kind of direct messages he has with the dude. You know what I mean? If he's got a line of communication with this dude that's ongoing, he might be leaking information to the Atlantic through this guy, and Walls might be a mole that needs to be fired immediately,
Right. Well, you also think like whether initials are close to JG, and I mean it's like JD, obviously, like D's even next to G on the keyboard.
Right.
If you're like thinking like an honest mistake, right? But then you would think JD Vance wouldn't be in there, right? Like
right. It wouldn't have added it twice. Yeah, it would have been this guy instead of. Yeah.
Right. And that's one thing I could think of, and that even doesn't make any sense to me either. So I have a hard time buying the what Tim had put forward, although I still side with the fact it's not like that crazy at all. I do see it as a bit more of like an odd, like just such an odd cover up, but maybe it is for the reason of wanting to put it in the news cycle, right? Maybe that's part of it, because it just seemed fishy at the time when everything had kind of just dropped the way that it did.
Right. 100%. Earl's daughter says, what stood out to me in the staffer Alex Wong was a former staffer to Tom Cotton and Pompeo, the two that I've had a hand in suppressing. Oh, that have had a hand in suppressing the Epstein files.
Yeah. And Alex Wong was the one that has that Laura Loomer had, I believe, dropped files about today that had involvement with the CCP. I can actually fact check that real quick.
Okay, and while you're looking that up, Tix Bomber mentions, I want to know who Mar is, M-A-R. That is added to, at least that's what their proof showed. Yeah, whenever they went through and saw that. It showed
that's what I thought it was.
Okay, yeah, so it's the same guy.
Yep. Alex Wong's father-in-law had direct ties to the CCP. And that's the Deputy National Security Advisor, Alex Wong, right? So he's still like kind of like how Kash Patel is the director of the FBI, and then Dan Bongino is like deputy director. So that would be that Mike Waltz's deputy to his position would be this Alex Wong dude, who apparently has familial ties, at least father-in-law being, directly related to the CCP, and all these other things as well, right? The father of Candace Xu Wong, the wife of, is now the center and directly tied to the CCP and the People's Liberation Army of China. And then he had a 23-year-long career with Asia Sat, which is like the leading satellite solution provider in Asia. But apparently like some bigger, higher up connections there too. So just some, but I think I agree with House though on that, which is like, that's the guy who shouldn't have been in the, in the cabinet in the first place. Like, why would you pick somebody that's got like so many kind of holes like that, right? It's like
true.
It is why I always said a long time ago, like, I would have been better off had he just closed his eyes picking his cabinet at a rally and just said, and that guy over there, director of FBI, and
those people are MAGA
right there. Yeah. We would have had a better administration, right? Who would have been argued with that? What's the left going to say, right? Oh, it can't be these random people, right? It's like, we're for the people, by the people, man. We picked them at random. Get in there, dude. Do your job.
Right, exactly. Oyden Howard says, greetings from Northern California. Good to have you, Oyden. Haven't seen you in here before. Forgive me if you've been here, but glad to see you. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Make sure to hit that like button. And that goes for everybody, please. Make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe. All the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. So,
yeah, exactly.
Hired.
Right. Yeah. You're in there.
Let's see here. Obama appointed Judge James Boasberg has been assigned to oversee the leaked signal chat lawsuit. This dude looking like what's his name? Not Uncle Fester, but Lurch. He's looking like Lurch from the Addams Family. The butler. I think it's Lurch, right?
Why do so many judges look the same though?
He looks like Bull from Night Court. I see Bull or Lurch. Maybe Bull and Lurch had a baby.
What's his
two guys name? Can do that nowadays.
I can't tell what his name is.
His name? James Boasberg.
Berg. You can't make it up, dude. Oh god. Okay.
Right.
I had a feeling, dude. I was like, I didn't catch his name, man, but looking at him right there, I could see the nose. What's the last name? Oh you bet, dude.
You can see the yarmulke tan on his head.
Yeah. Can I get an early life check on this judge, please?
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but of course, right. And I actually, speaking of that, now that you bring that up, I saw a post from Jack Posobiec about this judge earlier today that I thought I bookmarked, but apparently didn't.
And then I have this here. Actually, I wanted to show you guys too, real quick. This is a little debate that went on in the House or whatever. I'm not sure exactly where, but CIA chief yells at Democrat for offensive suggestion that Pete Hegseth was drinking when he texted the war plans.
To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't know why she was muted. What happened? Oh, sorry. I muted it when I tried to turn it up. I'm like, what happened there? I tried to turn it up all the way and it muted itself. Did it again. There we go. Sorry about that.
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question.
Waste of time.
Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that the intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American.
No. I don't think it was at the top of mind of every American whether Pete Hegseth was drinking whenever he was texting. It's such a ridiculous accusation. It's just, the continuation of the attacks that have gone on Pete Hegseth from his confirmation hearings, right? Right.
Well, he was the most contested one.
Right. The big thing was, can he do it without being drunk? And I remember the one guy stood up and was like, for any of you who haven't been drunk in this room when you're voting on something, raise your hand. And it's like nobody could raise their hand. He didn't say that exactly, but I totally get the point. And then Thomas Massie, he posted what the media isn't talking about in the leaked signal chat. The vice president and 2 others in Trump's administration expressed the same concern I did upon learning of the strikes on Houthis. We're spending U.S. dollars to protect Europe, Asia shipping lanes. We're spending U.S. dollars to protect Europe / Asia shipping lanes. Is that America first? And he added this, the 5 countries that will benefit most from U.S. military activity to eliminate shipping disruptions caused by the Houthis near the Red Sea are 1, China, 9.6 billion, 2, Saudi Arabia, 5.7, Germany, 3.8 billion, Japan, 3 billion, and South Korea, 2.68 billion. The 5 corporations that will benefit the most are AP Moller Merck. I don't know what that is. Probably looks like it's German or something. I don't know. Not German, but yeah, German probably. Mediterranean Shipping Company, BP, Shell, CMA, CGM. I don't know. You know, Trump has this thing where he wants to release the energy, so I don't know, right? But that kind of goes back to what JD Vance was saying, where it's like, I don't like bailing out the European countries once again. And looks like Thomas Massie is basically confirming that that was basically what they were doing with this airstrike, which that's not America first. That's not what I voted for. It's one thing if you're targeting a known terrorist like Soleimani, but this particular case, maybe the whole thing wasn't necessary in the first place. You wouldn't get a stupid text line if you're not doing this bullshit in the first place. But I don't know, right? I assume they know better than I do.
But it's the overall fear that they want to go to war with Iran. That's the overwhelming fear. Is like that this, again, all of these things, the underlying story to this story is the fact that these strikes are against the Houthis in Yemen because we're continuing this multi-fronted war prospect overseas, and what feels like we're building up to the point in which we are going to threaten against Iran, which we already did with that flurry of posts we had from Donald Trump, which was anything the Houthis do, we will take that as a Iran-backed and prepared, action, and that anything the Houthis do, we're going to hold Iran accountable for. And this, again, just by the numbers, like with Thomas Massie pointing it out and what you had just said, like, this isn't America first. This what are we doing over here? Like, who cares? Like, just let these guys, like, defend your own shipping lanes. Like, we're not getting paid enough money. We're all only losing money on this. It's not going to benefit us directly. I mean, out of that, I guess it directly benefits like the couple of our, economic allies in terms
Japan and South Korea, 4 and 5, but China, Saudi Arabia, and Germany, I would argue, are not our allies in any sense of
Germany,
the form.
just by proxy of being with the European Union and just being, the Western Europe, you would say. But Saudi Arabia, though, like only like really with oil in particular, but we have a lot of meddlings over in the Middle East, just regards on how how much oil comes from that port over there.
Right.
But I remembered I found the post about the judge that I wanted to highlight too. This the Judge James Boasberg, he gave Ray Epps a walk. He was the judge for Ray Epps as well over that case with J6 and the involvement, and he's the one who allowed him to walk. He only got a year probation for his role on January 6th. So he's clearly a, like, call it what you want to call it, but seemingly, at least at the minimum, a deep state provocateur, right? Somebody they have on the bench ready to go in case, you need to bail out anybody who might have involvement federally with some kind of issue like that. But then that second part also says that he also happens to be the judge that gave Kevin Kleinsmith a free pass for fabricating evidence during the Russia collusion hoax to obtain the FISA warrant for Donald Trump. So this guy clearly has a spotted and checkered past, clearly over one side, obviously very anti-Trump, but also very anti-American as well, clearly benefiting what the Biden administration would have been taking care of during that time period, as well as probably involvement there with just the hoax of Russia as well. It's just not a good look. And as long as there are going to be, opposing party judges and activists at that who still line all the halls of all these different, courtrooms, it's going to be rough, and it's going to lend itself to be a lot of nothing burger in the media and the news. But I think that's a good segue to even what the next story really is the fact that this kind of blew my mind, and I think you probably saw this in the outline. let me get it verbatim here, though. Let me actually pull up the actual specific thing here. But it's the fact that China is now involving itself, which is what the fear was, over in the Middle East. China directly issuing a call to Israel to withdraw out of not only just Syria, but Lebanon immediately. And that's one thing I've been fearing for quite some time, which is the fact that Iran is in BRICS. Iran is allied with China. And China's not going to just watch as the U.S. goes over there and dominates and just has their way with the entirety of the Middle East. They're clearly going to come to Iran's defense there, just as much as you may on paper look at Israel as like our greatest ally for, the military outposts of the West in the Middle East, right? Well, China views Iran as kind of like that block over there for them as well, too. So this is like, why are we doing things that escalate tensions towards World War III?
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if Iran, as an ally of China through BRICS, isn't pressuring China to, hey, we need you to start throwing your weight around a little bit here. You know what I mean? We need you to at least make a statement on our behalf. Like, why are we in this alliance if you, the powerhouse, who's not at war right now, the other one being Russia, who is at war, doesn't at least make a statement here? You know what I mean? We need you to take a stance on this, and we need you to back us. I'm sure that's been mounting for quite a while here. So here, and then finally you get China that actually makes this, request, demand, whatever it is.
Right. And I mean, I don't think China's really going to, China probably does do a lot of saber rattling. Don't get me wrong, especially when it does come to Taiwan, seemingly what they probably want the most. But ultimately, you're right, though. Like at the end of the day, they are like on paper, they have a duty or an obligation to, at least in a defensive alliance, to those who they're allied with, and that being Iran. And Iran being important for a lot of different reasons. Largely, it's at this point seemingly is like the last of the 7-country front war that's long been going on for some time. It's been the only one to remain untouched. And they are the kind of lynch point there for the BRICS alliance, their kind of insertion point. And the same thing with Russia, too. And so we're already not on the best grounds with Russia, especially, we've kind of brushed under the rug the fact that we, the United States did take out the Nord Stream pipeline, our involvement with that stuff over there as well, kind of ensuring that more Ukrainians and Russians die just because we keep funding another never-ending war over there that we know is inevitably just waiting to be brought to the table to discuss how much Ukraine is going to cut off of itself so people can quit dying. But again, none of this is America first, right? And this is a huge change from the Trump that we came to know in 2016, right? Very anti-war sentiment there. And now it's like on multiple fronts, what was his famous quote, right? War would have, day one, Ukrainian war will be over when I take over office. This also never would have happened had I been president. And it's still ongoing because, it was floated to us that maybe there can be some kind of deal we can cut out where we can get resources from Ukraine, like rare minerals, as long as we keep funding. And he's like, oh, well, maybe we will. And all this stuff is just like, it's just, to me, it's just, this is not the same Donald Trump that was in the White House in 2016.
Yeah, it's definitely different. He's not trying to get reelected or anything like that. But I think that some of that where, he said he'd have it done on day one was that he believed that Ukraine would actually entertain the concept of having a peace agreement. Instead, their president is basically wants guarantees and all this stuff. And it's like, bro, you are losing this war. You are not in any position to get a guarantee from anybody. Your best bet is to do whatever you have to do to stop the war. That's it. It stops the waste. It stops the death of your people. And it's, it's not good long-term for your country if you kill off all the men or 50% of the men or what, a significant percent of the men across your country from, the youngest of the recruitable military age, men to the oldest ones, which they started with the older dudes first, and then they've gradually gone and recruited younger and younger and younger to the point where we've seen vans pulling up, kidnapping people that are out walking their dogs, trying to throw them into the military, force them to the front lines. Seen videos of people standing in prison going, look, you're going to send me out there and I'm just going to die. I'm not going to fight for you. I'm not fighting for this. This isn't my war, And it's just sad, you know, and I don't think Trump expected that type of response from the guy who everybody agrees has no chance of winning this war. I mean, their population is outnumbered 4-1 just on that alone, right? Russia has ICBMs that can travel around the world. They have some of I think the fastest missiles on the planet. You know, what's the Satan II missile or whatever it is? I think is what it's called. They
some reports
have
even
the
have them
nukes.
having better quality stuff than what we have. Like their top 2 missiles that they have actually outpower and out, like, I forget what the weight is. It's like, you know, atomic weight or something like that in terms of like
and speed.
Power. Yeah.
Yep.
And
exactly. It's like the 2 combined.
Best one.
Yeah, exactly. Earl's daughter asked a question earlier and said, can anyone make sense out of why the EU solely buys energy resources from Russia, yet they're sanctioning Russia while simultaneously screaming Russia bad, World War III? I mean, it's a good point, and it adds to the bullshit that they sit there and cry that the United States, like when people like Piers Morgan cry and say that the United States needs to, you know, fund Ukraine at sparing no expense to make sure that Russia loses this war and gives back every inch of land that they've conquered. And you know, meanwhile, they're going to sit over there and sit there and buy. Meanwhile, they're going to sit there and buy energy from Russia at the same time we're fighting this war for them, fighting this war for them. It's their borders that are on the line, not ours. You know, these dudes are across 2 oceans either way.
Right. It's the but again, it's all soft power playing. That's seemingly what a lot of this is. It's why I was kind of disappointed when I listened to the Mike Benz interview with Tucker Carlson, where they were talking more specifically about USAID, but why it's actually still important that these things are done. We might just not be happy about what they're specifically funding. And that stuff's just seemingly never going to go away. The American empire is what it is. As every day, each day passes with the new administration here, and it's kind of like this adoption of some of this globalist stuff 10 years ago we would have all spat in the face of. I'm beginning to think that there is no walking away from what the American empire is. We're going to have to just kind of ride it out. But on that regards too, I agree and disagree a little bit with what Tiggs had said about China not wanting war. Or rather more so about the point of them being a paper tiger. Because I just see conflicting stuff about China all the time now. Especially versus like what we've been told on paper versus when they had been TikTok, right? When they'd been TikTok, and then I can't remember what that app was. It was like Red something. Became the whole new trend because that was like a version of TikTok people could download still here in the States. It's like a different kind of it. And people were like, wait, you guys actually don't do this? Like, this isn't a thing over there? And they're like, no, we do this. We do this. You know, Speed, the streamer, recently went over to China, I believe like 48 hours ago. And so I'm kind of in the mindset of how much do we want to test that? How willing are you as an American want to test that China's a paper tiger? It's like, I don't even want to test it. I don't even even if they are paper tiger, they're still going to fund and send, equipment and such that they can to Iran. The same way that foaming at the mouth, you have people here like Lindsey Graham who are dying, like their last breath would die to be able to get the military industrial complex churning because they know that means dollar bill, y'all. And if China can do the same thing via Iran, it's going to happen. They will have a proxy war where we fund Israel, they fund Iran, and we watch as another war just occurs and blows up. And this time it'll be on Iran's front. And one of which I believe we're not even entirely sure if they do have nuclear weapons, how far they're advanced in that program. Did they actually fund all of this massive drones instead of their nuclear program? Like all these things that's like, man, are we getting, illegals out of America? Like that's not even the discussion we're having now. Now it's like World War III, geopolitical things that like at the end of the day, America should just go, you know what? Like, who cares? Good luck, Israel. Like, all right, have fun, guys. Like, we're out.
Right.
Like, we're not. Why can't we do that?
Same thing with Ukraine.
There's like that clinging to the soft power, that clinging one. I think for other reasons with Israel too. But ultimately, it's like these people refuse to relinquish power because, and rightfully so, on a degree, to fear what happens with that void that would be left if America truly begins to walk back all of the empire we're trying to build. because who takes that void over, right? And ultimately somebody will, right? China will step in, Russia will step in. Somebody's going to fill that void.
Right. Well, I believe China was the country that took over the Air Force base that we abandoned there when we pulled out of Afghanistan. The $5 billion or 4 trillion, I think, is what we spent on it. Maybe I'm wrong. It was expensive. I think it was 4 or 5 trillion we spent building it, and then equipment and technology that we left behind. Basically, didn't even blow it up or shut it down. Just left it there, sitting nice, shiny. U.S. taxpayer paid for military base an hour away from China's borders,
billions,
just handed it right over. And not to mention the lives that we lost on in that pullout, and the scar it left with our allies in the region as well. I mean, the way that turned out, definitely not a reason to appreciate or want to go into another deal, the next deal with the United States. That's for sure.
Right.
I didn't know this. I didn't know this about China. Tix Bomber is saying that the thing is, though, too, China is also bankrupt. They've literally resorted to stealing all their entire population's income. They've spread themselves far too thin and invested too much in failed projects. I didn't know that. I feel like China's just been kind of licking their chops and building their infrastructure, building power plant after power plant, and getting stronger from within, not wasting any resources, fighting proxy wars, not really showing their hand, other than, when they announce every once in a while. We heard years ago that they wanted the world to be under China's thumb, essentially the CCP's thumb, by 2030, I think was the date. Maybe it was later than that. But it just, I feel like they're just kind of sitting there minding their own business and getting stronger and stronger. But maybe I'm wrong. I know they're always constantly doing the military training exercises off the coast of Taiwan and things like that. So, I mean, it's not like they're, at least you would think that they're being weak, but I could be completely wrong. I never really delved into the pros and cons of, or whatever it is of China's economy and how that's all going. I know that it's a communist run regime, and I know communism doesn't really has never worked in the history of America or history of the world. Same thing. But
right. Well, I mean, but take that at its value, right? Say we go with that, and it's like, yeah, China's bankrupt, they're spread themselves too thin. Well, like, then you would be expecting they're going to chomp at the bit when Iran offers $2 billion for them to send, missile, ammunition, equipment, tankers, IFVs, like, I mean, like, literally anything, which would make it the point all the more stronger that it's like, then do you really want to press to see how willing China is to start funding a proxy war? And not funding, but more so like profiteering off of it, right? If Iran has the funds to use to send over and say, hey, China, like, we'll take all the equipment you got. Like, we got to start importing this in immediately because they're going to be striking here and here and here. That's what I'm fearful of. And then, the other side is like, so they're not paper tigers. So maybe they're less willing to, chomp at the bit to go full scale proxy war with the US.
Right.
But that also means then that's like, what resources do they have? And how willing are we to see, like, how far they'll match the US's involvement in the Middle East, et cetera?
Right.
And those are questions I just wish we weren't even talking about, because ultimately it's like, so how does this drop the price of eggs? Right? How does this get illegal Mexicans out of my country? It just doesn't.
Exactly. JB says China's a sneaky tiger. They're waiting to pick a winner. Yeah, and in the meantime, you never know. You assume they're getting stronger, right? But just by not wasting military resources, people, things like that. But Tix Bomber followed up and said, I only know this crap because I've been traveling back and forth from China for 22 years for business related stuff. I'm no expert or anything.
Yeah,
well, that's more expert than I am. That's more expert than I am. And you're speaking from firsthand experience. So, I trust you when you say that. I've never really delved down that avenue so much in my experience. Right.
Right.
Tix Bomber says China has always been master tacticians. That's true. That's true. We got a lot of history and stuff over there too. But I want to move on from here. We're past 9 o'clock, and I've got this one story that's it's not on the outline, but it's pretty pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. I don't know what to make of it, and I'm curious what you guys think. But we have this here that the secret CIA files claim that the Ark of the Covenant has been found, which, if true, is huge, right? But the location of the chest believed to contain the 10 Commandments has long been a mystery, but CIA documents claim the Ark of the Covenant has been found. According to the Bible, the Ark of the Covenant was built by Israelites shortly after they fled Egypt around the 13th century BC. Moses then placed the 10 Commandments inside. Excuse me. The CIA conducted experiments in the 80s with individuals who claimed they could perceive information about distant objects, events, and other people. I think that's those like DMT trials that they were doing where they're basically putting people on drips and they were doing that like seeing or whatever, remote viewing. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so the report details one of these tests where remote viewer number 32 was given coordinates to locate a target, and they described the Ark of the Covenant hiding in the Middle East. Some historians believe the Ark of the Covenant was originally kept inside the Holy of Holies, the innermost chamber of the ancient Temple of Jerusalem, before it disappeared during the Babylonian sack of Jerusalem, 586 BC. There's also a legend that the artifact was taken to Ethiopia and now resides in a local church. Evidence that the chest exited has yet to be found, but the CIA document declassification in 2000 claims it was discovered in 1988. The target is a container. The container has nothing. Oh, sorry. Let me start over. The target is a container. The container has another container inside of it. The document states the target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver, and it is decorated with a six-winged angel. The remote viewer continued to say that the coffin-shaped object is located somewhere in the Middle East and saw people in the area speaking Arabic. The remote viewer, however, was not told that they were searching for the lost covenant before the experiment began. And so we have this document right here. And let's see here. Viewer attained excellent sight contact, doing very well with stage 4 structure. Viewer also exhibits the ability to keep AOL to a minimum. Having to be careful with editing, though. This does not seem to be a problem at this time, just something to watch for. Let's see here. Okay, so we'll continue. I don't want to read the whole article, but I wanted to just basically get the intro here and then look at some of these documents, but I want to read this next one. This next little section. According to biblical history, the sacred gold-covered wooden chest was constructed sometime around 1445 BC. The 10 Commandments are a list. Okay, we know about what they are. The CIA document, a remnant of the mysterious Project Sunstreak, suggests the U.S. government has known where the Ark is for years. In the 70s and 80s, the Defense Intelligence Agency and other intelligence agencies, including the CIA, employed individuals alleged to have paranormal capabilities as means of acquiring intelligence about the distant events. Project Sunstreak attempted to use physics known as remote viewers to gather intelligence on targets using only coordinates. Remote viewers are supposedly able to project their consciousness beyond their bodies to observe a far-off location. And this is right here.
This is the reason why we should be bombing the Middle East, actually. Give America the Ark of the Covenant.
Right. Well, they said a copy of the Ark of the Covenant was in Mar-a-Lago for a while. Maybe still is there, actually.
Jack Philbrick's always the one that claims that that's actually the real one, and that that it's the cover story is that it's a duplicate. That nobody goes and bothers it.
Trump actually owns the Ark of the Covenant. That'd be dope. But we've got this document here. It says target is a container. The container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned in wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim. The target is located somewhere in the Middle East. Like I said, the target is hidden underground, dark, and wet were all aspects of the location of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, and resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know now. The target is protected by entities and can only be opened now by those who are authorized to do so. This container will not cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanisms of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors, through the use of a power unknown to us. So this is like literally a declassified CIA document. Pretty crazy. That was from 1988 in December. What else we got here?
It's wild.
It shows a drawing of a mosque dome with windows. Showed mummies. How is it opened? A seraphim, I think is what that is. Seraphim. I think seraphim is this sketched winged creature, but I think it's actually an angel. I could be wrong.
That's wild though.
But yeah, man, that'd be pretty crazy if they actually confirm, if we can get it confirmed that the Ark of the Covenant has literally been found and we know where it is. Maybe probably one of the most valuable artifacts from the time of Jesus, right? Not the time of Jesus, not the time of Jesus. Way before. My bad. From the Bible.
Yeah. Under Christian nationalism, we would actually bomb the absolute shit out of the Middle East until we found where this was at.
Right.
So if that's what Donald Trump's doing, I'm actually all for it. I changed my opinions entirely.
Right. True that. There's rumors too that, like you get on the cryptids pages and stuff, they talk about the red-headed giants that live in Afghanistan in the mountains that U.S. insurgency, U.S. military went head-to-head with and then killed and then took into their possession in the process of looking for I'm now drawing a blank on what it was they were looking for.
Are you talking about the supposed story where they killed like
somebody's tomb?
The Nephilim giant?
Yeah, it's a Nephilim giant, it's a redhead Nephilim giant. It lived in a cage, a cave up in the mountains or whatever. There's a story, a firsthand account of people that were literally there. But they were looking for.
They said they shot 34 seconds straight. It was 18 service members shot for like their and the M4s back then,
something like that. And it was the tomb of Gilgamesh or something like that was what they were looking for. Supposedly.
Right.
Believe seraphim comes from Jewish teachings. I've heard that word before. I want to say I heard it in the Bible.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it before, but I don't know if it's from the Bible or when I was playing Elden Ring fighting some creature I'd never seen before.
Seraphim are supernatural beings that worship God and are often depicted as having 6 wings. They are mentioned in the Bible in Isaiah 6, and they're described in the book of Enoch. Okay, so essentially an angel.
Yeah.
Type of angel, potentially.
Yeah, which is wild because there's a funny interaction that went on viral on X, which came from like a discussion. People are talking about like if you could travel back in time. No, what was it? The famous post was like, would you take $5 million or a 10-minute dinner with Jesus? And then like somebody had quoted it and said, well, this is what I would do if I had a 10-minute dinner with Jesus. And then somebody quoted it with their saying, and it was like, dude, you realize if you went back in time to have a 10-minute dinner with Jesus, he'd probably look you directly in your eyes and tell you to go home. And there's this cool comic that somebody made, and you could probably find it if you look around on X a little bit. But it is like, it gave me kind of chills because it's when he was feeding the crowd with the fish and the bread, and it's like he's like talking to people, and then it has Jesus like turn and look out among the crowd, and he like locks eyes with somebody like way out in the distance, and he just says, "Go home now." or something along those lines of like, this isn't the right time. You need to go home. Can you imagine doing that, right? You get the chance to go back and Jesus just looks at you and says, you're not supposed to be here. It'd be crazy, but it would be expected, right? Like he's like, you're messing with the timeline. Like go home.
I'd be like the guy that crawled up and snuck up to him or whatever and just touched his clothes for healing.
Right.
Like I don't know if you guys have seen or if you've seen that show that's on, I think it's Paramount Plus. What's it called? Help me out. It's the new series about Jesus. What's it called?
There's like what, The Chosen.
The Chosen. Yeah, I think that's what it is. That's actually pretty good. I like the actor that plays Jesus in that. It kind of gives you like a, I don't know, different type of visualization of Jesus as a man, capable of having fun and smiling and like just you know, I think he plays the role well, and it's actually pretty fun to watch. I don't watch it that often. I kind of like to just save it. It's pretty funny, but we'll go on little spurs where we watch a bunch of episodes, and I don't want to go back to it because I just want to save it. I don't want to watch them all.
Right.
But yeah, that would be crazy if you get that wish, that genie wish or whatever, and then Jesus sees you and he kicks you out and sends you back.
Go home.
Hey, genie, I want my wish back, man.
Yeah, well, the comic's crazy because it's all black and white except for Jesus's eyes. They're like this super sharp blue. And so in the comic, you can tell right when he's like looking. Like, you know, he's like staring up underneath the tree, like thousands of people away, like staring at you, and you can hear him like whisper in your ear. Like that would be terrifying, dude.
Yeah.
You know, not just you love God, but you're also supposed to fear him too. And so then you'd get like, oh, I messed up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what else you want to talk about? Do you want to hit anything else up here, or should we go ahead and just wrap it up?
No, only thing I would add would just been the
I think
you know, the Steven Crowder stuff. I didn't get a chance to say anything about. I just think it's good. I mentioned a little bit when I was getting a chance to comment, though. My overall take on it is, I like it. I think overall, like net positive. I know people hate saying that. Donnie had said that too.
Right.
But I think it's the main takeaway is the fact that it's evidence that the Overton window is moving. Can't be ignored. And I think it's a good sign because I wouldn't consider Steven Crowder to be Con Inc. I think he's kind of Con Inc. adjacent in a lot of ways, but he's definitely not Con Inc. I mean, he was the one who ripped the Band-Aid off of Jeremy Boring that started a lot of this anti-Daily Wire stuff.
Right.
Now, what I would say though is, it's funny because people are like, you know, only 24 hours since he's been off YouTube, and the first thing he starts talking about on Rumble was Israel. I thought that was hilarious.
Right.
But I think it's just a sign that people who have their ear to the ground are realizing, especially in adjacent media, that this is something that you cannot ignore anymore if you want to maintain credibility, especially for like its prevalence, especially for something like AIPAC, right? It's like it is a very, you know, major force in American politics as well as lobbying too. And so to omit that and its relevance is like, people are just going to start viewing you as inauthentic, especially when you do look at things like what we're seeing with the strikes and the involvement with Iran and the Middle East. Is like, well, you got to kind of talk about it, right? This is a major geopolitical issue that could also have major consequences when it comes to like American economy, as well as just our overall involvement too, let alone like, shouldn't you have a good kind of grasp on who your greatest ally is, right? If that's you know, we're going with, we'll take that as is, right, as it's on paper. But then you should expect to be hearing a lot about it, especially with its involvement here.
Yeah.
But I think my negative and my personal takeaway is I think that there's a bit of gatekeeping here with this. Just me, my black pill self. I fear that what's being done is an attempt for not only him, but probably Viva Fry and someone else I saw who I wasn't expecting it from, to get out ahead of it. To be like, oh, we're sort of talking about Israel now, but to do so in a way that's like what even Crowder had done, what he had alluded to in that little short video you had played, which was the problem is AIPAC, not Israel, right? We could talk about, you know, Israel, but AIPAC's the problem. And so kind of like, you know, narrative crafting around that, like, you know, who cares really about Israel? It's actually AIPAC that's the real bad thing about here. And I think that's the true, but I think there's also other sentiments there that do involve itself with the actual actions of Israel, the relations, the connections. And I think the reason you're seeing all of this is because we're on a timetable where it's inevitable we're going to be getting evidence about Epstein, 9/11, JFK, which we already did, and all of these different elements. That's going to have one main running theme between every single one of them, and it's going to be the involvement of a foreign intelligence operation called Mossad, as well as Israel and actors that are connected there, from CIA to the Jewish mob to the Italian mafia to Russian Soviet KGB. All that's all tied. So the longer that, I think Steven Crowder kind of looked at it and he said, the longer I probably avoid talking about this, the worse off it's going to be when the story hits the fan. And if the last thing I was running with was the CIA killed JFK and everyone else who had been waiting for these files to dump realized it's an entirely different story than that, I'm going to lose credibility when I've had access to this for Lord knows how long. And I'm supposed to be one of the top guys in the conservative movement. And that's where I kind of think I see that happening, where they might want to get out ahead of it too. And that's not to say like everyone's on the payroll of Israel, but just because it is such a extremely violent, especially in political terms, topic to talk about. It's very heavily censored, very, very toxic. People scream about it. It's the BLM of like the right wing. And so I think they're, not to say he's paid for Israel to talk about this, or he's shilling for Israel, but just to say like, maybe there's going to be a bit of a curation that happens here. Like, well, we'll talk about it now, but here's how we're going to talk about it, only in this light here.
Right. And also it could be that combined with making the business decision that we're going to go in the opposite direction of what like Fox News has, where their audience is 55 and up or whatever majority. And we're going to try to reach out and connect to the young people, being Steven Crowder, and recognizing that from, I think it's age 30 and below, 29 and below, favoritism with Ben Shapiro's favorite country is dropping. It's like 40-50% of the age group don't approve of the United States funding them the way that they've been funded. That's the age group of people that can't afford to start a family. That's the age group of people that can't afford to buy a house. And they see, why are we giving so much to our greatest ally with nothing coming back from our greatest ally? And so I think that's potentially what Steven Crowder is also seeing. Those guys are innovators. They want to be around for a long time. And I think that if they can get on board with what the young group is thinking without changing their principles, and at the same time saying, now that we're off of YouTube, we can actually talk about the stuff we've been wanting to talk about for a long time. We're not going to wait. You know what I mean? We're not going to sit there and watch you guys in chat say, well, now you're Rumble exclusive. Why aren't you talking about this? The 1% that we always talk about that we'll just avoid. We'll tiptoe around because we're trying to stay on YouTube. Right now, it's like throw caution to the wind. You've abandoned YouTube. So let her rip. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Exactly. There's no more excuses now. Now you have there's no guardrails, man. You should be able to do whatever and say whatever you want. So if you're admitting it, it's because you didn't want to talk about it, because there's nothing that you can say now that's like, I couldn't talk about it for X or Y reason.
Right. So they've been either chomping at the bit to say it, or they just found it a good business decision to just get right into it. Right.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned the percentages there with the population, right? It's like, I think the number that I saw was like only 46% of people now support Israel, which is like the lowest support that they've had, I think, ever, or at least in the last 20, 30 years. And then if you compare that to the fact that I think it's like 76% of all of America identifies as Christian, that's at least showing on the surface, if you just take numbers as is, that a large portion of the Christian populace has already kind of abandoned its support for Israel for one reason or another. And I think that's overwhelmingly a good thing. And I think that's, especially for what Errol's daughter lying out here as well, too. Some of these videos that have even been hitting my feed recently are some of the most disgusting and violent things that I've ever seen. I mean, just some of these recent strikes that broke the ceasefire. I mean, like 400 people killed, and I think 346 of them were all women and children. And it's just like, at a certain point, it doesn't matter what you're saying. It's like, I don't want to support that. Like the fact that it's like,
it becomes indefensible.
Right. Yeah. Indefensible, but also like, even on like an economic standpoint, if you want to like not care about the kids, it's like, why are my dollars being used to kill other people? Like it could be used for literally anything else on this planet, deporting people, building a wall, funding literally anything at all, but just not killing women and children. So I have to see it on my timeline as well,
right?
Especially when you throw in everything else in there too, and the other involvements. And I did think that was funny too, because I don't know if we talked about it or not. I don't think we did. But the article from Ben Shapiro that drops right after it's coming, we're going to get to all of the files from JFK. And it's all of a sudden him and Glenn Beck are doing the PR of what doesn't really matter, like who
why does it even matter?
JFK, right? Why does it matter? And then I think the same kind of framing he does for like things like the USS Liberty, where he's like, why do people care about what happened 39 years ago? That's so long ago.
Right.
But exactly.
Yeah, Anomaly tore him up for that, actually.
Yeah, and good. I mean, it's like his credibility is just absolutely dying. And so at this point, it's like, why hasn't? I mean, I guess contracts in there too, but at a certain point, you got to expect Matt Walsh and maybe even Michael Knowles, abandon ship.
Just turn it into the daily Ben Shapiro.
Right. And I think the optimism there, it's a huge white pill. It's a major white pill. They've lost their kind of monopoly on being the top dog in conservative media. And two, it looks like not only are they lose their grip at being the top dog, it looks like they might not even exist here in the future, with the fact that the president also stepped down, or what he was forced to leave over financial mismanagement. So they might not even be existing for much longer period.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing, because now it opens it up again. Conservatives, now who's going to be the top alternate media that's not Fox News and the conservative outlet? It's an amazing time to be a part of, because now we get to reset the hierarchy there in terms of who's top dog in the news.
Yeah, I agree. But I do want to read this one from Earl's daughter. When the truth comes out about Ben Shapiro's favorite country, the U.S. Christian is going to have a coming to Jesus moment. Our churches have been so indoctrinated about said country, and that's just so true. And at some point, we just got to recognize too that the bombings, the attacks, and I get it. Hamas is not releasing the hostages fast enough and everything like that, and that's their excuse to break the ceasefire. But at the same time, Hamas gives no shits who's killed, innocent wise. Gives no shits about the innocent people that are killed. You know what I mean? They don't. Yeah, they're elected leadership for that region, but they don't. They don't behave like it. They don't value the citizens' lives, right? And that's evidenced by the fact they set up in hospitals, hotel, in schools and stuff like that. It's just fodder for them to fight their holy war. Collateral damage as they fight their holy war. So, Dirty Money mentions, you can imagine these trash man my age don't ever feel like they'll own a house in these neighborhoods we service. Definitely don't like the idea of them folks getting unlimited funding. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, it's just like, when stuff start getting better for us, when does the American dream that my father promised me, that my mother promised me, actually seem attainable for me? I'm getting older and older. My biological clock is ticking if I'm a woman to have kids. And, that combined with everything we got going on with the whole dating, crap, it's a hard scenario for these youngsters out there. I mean,
where it's like, it's more, I think it's more than hard. It's one of those things where, you destroy social cohesion, and using exactly what that example there is, right, from Dirty Money, right? At a certain point, after you've been doing trash or whatever, you've been doing what you were supposed to be, right? You've been taking care of your business. You've been working a full-time job, doing this many hours, working this, and you look back and you're like, man, I'm 34 years old. I barely have a couple $1,000s in savings. Not a portion of me it's gonna be able to own a home. All the women I'm around are whoring themselves out. Like you at a certain point, it's like the young men are just going to snap. I mean,
and the young women are all like super woke. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just saying, to your point, and the young women are all super woke and like, look, I just put out a video today about all these women that are in Harry Sisson's DMs, and it's like, what the hell is wrong with these chicks? They I get he might be a decent looking dude, not judging other guys, right?
But did you see his message there? He was like, "I'd fuck you raw after a wine tasting." Like the hell liberals, like they flirt with each other. I thought that was funny. And in respect, I mean, like, yeah, I thought Harry was okay. I can't say that on YouTube. I thought Harry was gay.
A lot of people did. I'm getting those comments in my I'm getting those comments on the video. Yeah.
Right. I'll beat the allegations, man. I'm good. I'm clean.
Right.
And then it's funny because that little clique all like disavowed him. They're like, wow, he's such a raging Chad. Like we could never be around this this raging Chad. And it's like, hey, prosper, man.
For me.
Right. Like, Mega will take you in, dog. Just become, be truthful about the money you were taking from the DNC.
Right.
We'll be good about it. Come over to the regular side.
Right.
But it's, the inevitable though is I think that it's unsustainable at its current rate, and I think that's why people are being more privy to like amount of money being sent over there, because I think dirty money's ripe. When you're already in a rough spot, and it's like, wait, this country's getting this much money for what reason? Like why?
And I'm still paying taxes. Taxes hurt. Taxes suck. You know what I mean? It's one thing if you're just making that money that you're giving over off of patents on products or whatever, right? Government generating its own dollars off of good business practice. But it's another thing if you're taking 30% of my income on a weekly and then making me, pay at the end of the year, or maybe I get a little bit back at the end of the year. At the same time, I'm paying everything else, you know what I mean, that comes out of my check. I get 55 to 60% of my actual paycheck, and then to spend a dollar, I got to spend $1.12 or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's just like it's getting taxed on both sides of it. Then you got the income tax thing, which DeSantis is moving in Florida to abolish property tax, so that's pretty sweet. Hopefully that goes through. Maybe he should have kept that $900 million that he had that he gave back to Doge and put that in the we're abolishing property tax fund. But regardless, moving in the right direction, and maybe that will set a standard or start a trend or whatever. But I just want to answer this question. Dirty Money said maybe Timcast can take that spot. What do you think? And originally the top two entities that came to top of my mind was Timcast and Valuetainment. I don't think the Blaze would take it over. The Blaze kind of just
a hair away from being the Daily Wire themselves.
They seem to be just kind of what they are. And I don't know who else it would be, really. I don't know who else would even be in the running.
Yeah, what's good? We've hollowed them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something to really kind of fear. And I think, imagine this, right? Imagine you are Steven Crowder, and you look at the streaming numbers, and you see all of a sudden all of the banned men, right, who have been entirely blacklisted and blackballed out of media spaces, conservative wise, for years on end now, where all of a sudden they're climbing the ranks now. And now you're about to get a big player out of the network too. What do you do if people who have been banned off of these platforms for YouTube for years, all of a sudden now are beating you in streaming numbers and metrics?
Right.
Because it turns out that the new news cycle is now actually talking about all things that are mainstream that these people were actually banned for years ago. It's like, you have no credibility on that, right? Like you survived that space by not talking about it. And these people all sat and suffered there. And now all of their ideas are mainstream again. They're coming back into the forefront. It's like, you're going to lose. Those people have way more credibility and authenticity because they're willing to get canceled and debanked and everything else to maintain what they had been saying for some time. And now you're going to tell me 90% of all those ideals are now coming into the mainstream. It's like it's shaping up for a really, really bad outlook for all the people who have been making a living off of saying, well, this is why these people are dangerous to talk to. This is why I can have these people on my show. And now people are going to be looking to them over you. Not to mention that whole group went Rumble exclusive, where most of those people are at anyways. And so it's all going to be a rough spot. And I think they probably saw that writing on the wall, which is like, we're going to get dominated by these other guys, all these banned people, because they're all talking about these things that we haven't been talking about, and now they're all mainstream.
Well, that's why I see YouTube potentially opening up their restrictions a little bit. They're going to have to start allowing more to be said on their platform to compete. I think it's kind of just inevitable, kind of, yeah, they're the top dog by far, but the Rumble competition is becoming actual competition, and we see it reflected by the #1 streams coming off the Rumble platform for a week straight now, a week plus. You know what I mean? So maybe that'll be a part of the shift, and we'll be able to start saying more on the Rumble or on the YouTube aspect of things. That'd be great. House says jar openers coming for the #1 spot. You know, I'll take that, but I would settle for the #2 spot behind Andrew Wilson. I'd love to see him get a lot more run than he does, because I love how he talks about. I like to see you know, his business and his channel grow and stuff like that, because I like how he talks about Christian nationalism and how making Christianity the norm, the social norm, the thing.
What? You just don't watch him just because he talks shit to women?
The base.
That's the reason I watch him.
Sometimes it gets annoying, actually, when he just gets like, I'll admit, like sometimes when I'm watching him on the what's the
whatever podcast.
Yeah, the whatever podcast, and it's just like, I get it, but just move on, right? You're harping on this one just a little bit too much. Just move on. The other day I was watching it live, and this girl that was not nearly rebuttaling him as much as the other girl just spoke like when it wasn't her turn, and all of a sudden the host of the podcast and Andrew Wilson just started laying into her, and she ended up getting up and walking off, and she started saying a bunch of stuff that you can't say on YouTube. She was just blurring it out and stuff. And like turned into a total freaking tyrant. It was actually really entertaining. And they kicked her out and made her leave. And she's like, I'm not leaving unless I get paid for an hour or 2 hours or what I've been here. And it was just really funny. But I feel like they kind of wrote her so hard that it forced the issue, rather than just like, hey, don't talk when it's not your turn. The other girl was talking, and we're trying to hear her point right now or whatever. And instead it turned into this thing that lasted like 30 minutes. And it was like, all right, move on. I'm entertained, but move on. I want to hear the rest.
Yeah. No, what I will say is that Brian guy, funny enough, his name's Brian Atlas. He's the actual host of the whatever podcast.
Okay.
He is a very odd individual, to say the least. He's definitely a lot more liberal, I think, than like what Wilson is, but obviously his whole thing is very anti-feminism, and that's how not only Andrew Wilson got his claim to fame, but also his wife as well, kind of combating that and being a voice for a lot of the men who see a lot of the things that they see. In particular, the covert feminism is one thing that I think that they have been attacking pretty heavily, and I think it's actually the more important fight to be having over the very obvious feminism, which is like people, you know, like Megyn Kelly and Tommy Lauren. They even had a recent spat on Piers Morgan between Tommy Lauren and Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's this whole idea of like, we are so far away from the patriarchy, even as it sits right now, that if we were to institute it right now, I mean, women and men alike would just shit themselves. They would start pissing was there a rainstorm? Because there's a puddle right here. There's a fear. And I think ultimately the main fear lies in women, just for what that looks like, but also because a lot of women have a very warped view of men. And so the idea of like being led by a man that you're not attracted to in the slightest is also a very strong fear of a lot of women. So I understand that. But I think overall, the overwhelming, fight that needs to be occurring is the fight that they're having, which is the fact of when you do have people like Anapolina Luna, Valentina Gomez, Tommy Lauren, Megyn Kelly. I mean, you could go on and 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 on of all of these people who kind of are in perpetuity advancing feminism without realizing it. Now, there are some people who kind of draw the line, right? They don't like the fourth and fifth wave, but Andrew Wilson is like, I didn't like the first wave. We're going to whole straight up ideas of, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, right? The 19th Amendment discussion. other things along those lines that they're like this, and this is why I don't think that. But again, toxic discussion to have, because the first thing coming out of a woman's mouth is, well, one, do you hate women? Or two, you know, all these reasons why they're the exception to the rule of like voting and things like that. Kind of very common pushback there too. But yeah, overall, yeah, if he was number one and we were number two, I'll take that. I wouldn't be able to complain.
Tix Bomber says, I want to know what the C word you can say on YouTube was. I can't say. That was from the Tommy Loren debate with Andrew Wilson, I believe, right? I remember, it rings a bell. I think that's what it was. Maybe it was, I think that's what it was from.
Interesting. It might just be TV though. I think Piers Morgan's also on TV, so it might not be a YouTube thing. It might be just like a.
No, he's just on YouTube. I think. I don't even think he does Rumble.
Really? Okay.
That Piers Morgan Uncensored is just a YouTube show. Pretty sure. Earl's daughter says, what cracks me up is how liberals yelled for years how the conservative Christian was out for their free speech. Now they're the ones censoring and doing it with a religious conviction, for sure. Right. That is. Oh yeah, when he kicked the chick off the show, that's what it was. I was like, man, it rings a bell. I can't remember. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she went over and they grabbed his microphone too, right?
She was saying it in her microphone. She kept moving his microphone and like pointing it upward like this, and he was like, point the microphone at you quick. She was like getting up on it and going like this, like talking over it. And it was bothering him. So he told her multiple times. Then after she left, he was like, "You gotta have to point that mic back at your face," because she just kept tilting it up.
Right.
That's funny. I don't watch that very often, but I caught that one and it cracked me up.
Well, and as much as I would like to to agree with like the cherry picking, because I wish it was right. I kind of could have seen that initially, right? They're just cherry picking the worst woman to ever come on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also see that Fresh and Fit also do a show like that. And then you also see 18 bajillion different street interview guys trying to do the same stuff by asking women on the street random questions.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, it's like, I've probably now seen thousands and thousands of women harboring and holding these same kind of retarded and ridiculous positions, that at a certain point you can't sit there and be like, well, they're all clearly cherry picked, the worst of the worst. At a certain point you go, okay, maybe this thought and the way these women carry themselves and speak and act is a lot more prevalent than what we were giving it credit initially. And I'm a lot more black pill on that too. I think that the Whatever podcast actually has a lot more of what I would consider just to be basic, normal kind of women thought processes on there. Not to say it's every single one, but to act as if like these are just the most whorish women in Miami all the time. It's like, bro, I was in college just a few years ago. Like, you can't fool me. I'm like, I'm not retarded. Like, yeah, most of the women I spoke with behaved like that. Like, they were disgusting whores. You know, I don't mean to be rude by that by any means. So I kind of, you know, in the sense that if it defines you, yeah, you take the definition. But yeah, I've seen a lot more of that because I'm on a bit on the younger side. So it's like, you know, to me, it's like, you know, sure, like they're not like the super ratchet ones who are wanting to fight all the time, but at least some of those more basic ideals that they hold and talk about when it's being civil somewhat. A lot of women hold those positions. And so I think that's like why you see the negativity about it, right? You know, the conservatives are the ones who want those shows banned, right? Stop talking to women. They're like, they're figuring out how we barely think at all. It's kind of like the vibe that I get from it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I like I said, I only watch it every once in a while, but I watch it for Andrew Wilson. Really interested in hearing what that dude has to say, especially when he talks about the Christian nationalism. That I'm really intrigued. I want to be able to soak up as much of his knowledge on that as I can, basically, because I like how he talks about it. I like how he talks about bringing back shame, making the norms that we judge each other based on, you know, Christian values and stuff like that. And you know, that's the revival that I'm praying for, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like when he talks shit to homosexual men too. He's like, oh, what's this? A gay pastor? get wrecked. What's funny enough, one of his like people who watches his show all the time was the guy who had absolutely destroyed Sam Cedar in that 20 versus 1 debate.
Oh yeah, he ended up going on Tim Pool the other day too. A couple of days after he was after Andrew Wilson was talking about him, like, yo, this dude, he's not like people were saying. Andrew Wilson did like a thing was like, you guys are saying that this dude like sounds like me, is me or whatever, like a mini me or whatever. And then the dude went on Timcast actually, so he's making his rounds. That was a cool little debate with Sam Cedar. You gotta love anytime Sam Cedar gets his ass handed to him,
because he did the deconstructionism. He deconstructed the morality argument for Sam Cedar and honed in on the fact that he's like an atheist, and like trying to get an idea of like where he draws his morality from, like what's his foundation for what implies his morals and what determines what he says is right versus wrong. And then he basically got Sam Cedar to say, we doesn't believe in any kind of greater doctrine, but that he's just like, that it's like preference, right? And so that's what the guy kept putting him on, was like, okay, well then everybody, we get a majority of people here whose preference is that women shouldn't, or men should be in women's sports, then you'd have to agree with that, right? Because that's what people's preference would be. And like that's what they kept going in circles on that point, and which is why he ended up bringing him on. You know, Tim Pool talked about it, which I didn't see the episode, but I did see that he did have that guy on, that Mexican guy.
Yeah, I watched part of it. I usually will watch like the first little bit and then turn it off and start watching TV with my wife or something like that. Whenever I catch Tim Pool's show, if it's really good, then I'll make sure I finish watching it the next day. Depends on the guest and depends on the topic, stuff like that. Well, you know, with that, I think we'll probably just go ahead and wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah.
Well, we're approaching 10, so yeah, Andrew is a goat for sure. Dirty Money. And Earl's daughter, that's pretty awesome. She said, in all fairness, I have 3 daughters, age 18 to 27. They're all God-fearing, beautiful ladies. 2 are married with kids, and my youngest is graduating high school this year with marriage on her mind. That's awesome. My daughter is 26.
Don't take this offensively, Earl's daughter, but the first thing that came to my mind was, I was like, here's a girl. She's like, hold on, I'm the exception to the rule. Not me, though. But that's good, though. I think it's great. You know, just poking fun of you. That's awesome. A lot more under your belt there that you can be proud of than I would imagine the majority of mothers in this nation.
Yeah, for sure. Raising them right. Hopefully, we can get the environment to a place where they can afford to own a home and provide for their kids and homeschool if they so choose to, which I recommend. They have any boys, get them into wrestling ASAP. That last TNT sent me a link. He DM'd me a link on Discord. That heavyweight match from the most recent NCAA national championships, the heavyweight battle, which was a guy that's actually an Olympic champion in freestyle, and they're wrestling folk style. But dude was a heavy favorite and got beat, and the guy that beat him was the guy that was walking around with the American flag on his back. And when he came out, he was introduced, he had the American flag on his back, and the guy that he was wrestling, the Olympic champion, goes up to him and was like, you get the right to wear that when you win Olympic gold, you know, and talked a little junk. And then the guy wearing the flag got the victory. It was a good match. And wrestling is gaining ground, and it has a potential for a future in MMA and stuff like that. So I don't know.
He's like 5'5" and his girlfriend's like 6'2".
Who? Oh yeah, that was a different guy.
Okay, that's a different guy. Okay.
Yeah, the heavyweight guy wasn't 5'5". He'd be a big old dude if it's 5'5".
Okay.
Yeah. But I did see that one. The guy ran over and hugged his girlfriend, and he was like up to here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I was like, that was like, he broke a lot of records that day, dude. Beat the heavy favorite, and then like beating the odds. You know, supposedly, you know, women never date shorter than them, and then here he is. It's like, what's going on right now? I'm in a dream.
Yep. And then with that, Dirty Money says, I feel Atlas has the same, maybe even more mental capacity than Andrew. I really respect both of them and their outlooks on society. Glad I can always ask Atlas a question directly, which is
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Andrew could wipe the floor with me though, so I do appreciate that. It's a pretty heavy compliment there, but thank you.
Yeah, and he's able to do that via Discord, so make sure you guys click the link in the description to join the Discord, have the same type of access. We continue these conversations 24/7 essentially. We're created a little community over there. We all support each other. We don't always agree, but it's a place where iron sharpens iron, and nobody takes their ball and goes home or anything like that. We're all adults, and it's a nice place to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So make sure you click
furry,
that.
and then take your ball and go home.
Well, he's still around. At least he didn't leave yet. He's come around a little bit.
Virgin therapy works.
Earl's daughter came back and said, "Oh, I can get petty, Atlas. Make no mistake about that. I am an adult human female, but I truly want to serve God with all my heart, all my might, and all my soul." That's awesome. And I like what you said there earlier about your husband there too. I think people should continuously choose to love and be with their significant other every day. It's a big part of staying married, and it's something that my wife and I have used to stay married for over 20 years now. So anyways, want to tell you guys, thank you so much for being here in chat. As always, you guys are the best chat. I love the little community we have going on. Just me is not here tonight, so that's kind of a bummer. We didn't see her, but it is what it is. People get busy. We'll probably see her on the next show, or maybe even have her on. We'll have her on again soon. I know that for sure, but she did a good job last time. But other than that, Christ is King, and we'll see you guys on Saturday.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody. Christ is King.
Let's war rolling and let's thug. We here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast. We breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up. We won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug. We're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Draw open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar openers podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas thug, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar openers podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thug, fearless in our release. Jar openers podcast, where the lies will decrease.